development. I'm doing loot tables, helping with model, finding designs, and broad array of tasks.
Right, annoyingly and stupidly, I had my mic muted for that entire thing. Because I'm so good at this. Hello everybody, sorry. Second round, take 2. Hello everybody, sorry about that. Yes, my mic was not muted, but OBS was. So apologies for that one. Everything's now whizzing around on the sound bars. Hi! It just seems to be the theme of today, I think, is things not quite going right. So you'll have to bear with us on this one, because we might have a few issues going forward. But anyway, let me introduce the guys that are with me, the guys from Elion. So joining me today, I've got Hummel, or
Hello.
Otherwise known as Christoph. Hello. We've got Talon.
Hello.
And we've got Texas Tornado. Who has a bit of a delay, but he is there. He is there. Welcome, guys. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Pleasure.
And welcome and thank you for everyone for joining me today on the stream over on YouTube and Twitch. Hope you are all good today. There's a lot of you. I may not be very good. May not be very good at keeping up with the chat today, so I'm going to try and focus on the sort of questions and stuff that was submitted via Discord. I have a number I'm going to ask myself that I came up with myself that I'm going to ask later. First thing that we're going to do in today's stream is we're going to look through the new features of 10.6 and stuff, and we're going to have a look at the latest closed alpha build that has literally just been released. Would you say, Christoph, would you say that a little bit hurried release, maybe?
Maybe we wanted to add the new stuff, so maybe, possibly it's a bit late today and everyone finished work, and but we could load into the games. Actually, it takes a while, so it's not actually broken. It's like it always is when you do closed alpha or the QA behind the scenes testing, that not always everything is really right, because we quite changed a lot of we can see some things already today, so we can bring up to speed what we changed last announced.
You're breaking up a bit there, Hamon. I'm sort of getting every other word.
Okay, maybe I need to go closer to the mic.
Yeah.
It's Friday. Everything is going to the weekend.
Even the technology. Tell me about it.
So what I said is, basically, it's always in closed alpha testing that we release a build and someone changed something ahead, or merging did something wrong and did not show up when the build was composed or built, and then you can start the game basically as we did. I'm actually in the game, so it's not broken. Wait, it takes a while to run through a few error messages. We will investigate after the stream tomorrow then and fix that. It's basically live. It's testing, Q&A. It's QA.
Yep. I'm just gonna pause on the music a little bit. I think people are struggling to hear you guys, but I think I just turned you up, so hopefully that's a little bit better now. Sounds good. Need to turn them up, can't hear. Chris Goodin. So as Hummel was just explaining, guys, let me switch over to the game itself. It's nighttime, of course it is.
How should it be different?
Of course it's nighttime. Yeah, exactly. You know, what's daylight? Seriously. So this is the latest version, which is 10.6 build 2683. Literally come out, but there are obviously going to be problems with it because it is closed alpha, brand spanking new. So this is pre-experimental, really, isn't it?
Really. So we usually do not show these versions in the public because, as you see, we are currently live working on this build or on this branch.
Yep.
And that's why we usually wait for the experimental. So most of the stuff that you might see today in the evening or while we speak will be fixed in experimental. So when we go live next week. So if you see any issues, please disregard.
Yeah. But where are we on the sort of CPU numbers with the devices and the sort of numbers on the thrusters and stuff like that? Are we sort of in the right ballpark now?
As far as I can see, yes, I think. But yeah, we did a quite extensive rebalancing on the thrusters themselves. So not directly on the CPU points, but most of the, as I wrote it in forms of performance checks, the specs. And I was actually mistaken. It's not the performance, it's the technical detail. So how the thrust, the weight, energy consumption. And for now, the CPU points relate, of course, for the thrusters to the thrusts. They have some values have gone lower, some have gone higher. So that's maybe a basic balancing, as we will see it when this goes to experiment.
Yeah, we got like basic issues at the moment with this build. It's just gone into space and I'm now frozen. Hang on. Let's see if we can. Can I move around? Doesn't look like it. I just wanted to go into space quickly to see if spawning was possible up there. May not be able to show that much really because yeah. So nice. I can't spawn in stuff. It seems. Do you think some of this might be a multiplayer issue? If I went single player, do you think it might be better?
Possibly.
I might need to go that way. At the moment, I can't pull any builds in. I seem to be stuck somewhere in the limbo between orbit and space as well. So
now we broke it entirely.
Now it's totally broke. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, let me try a new creative. Let's try a new creative game. Spanj is screaming internally, Elion, please fix.
Yes.
You tried turning it off and on again. Yeah, several times actually already. But anyway, yeah. Yeah, this is the sort of thing that you guys never get to see, really. This is just the internal builds.
That's really live testing. Maybe because it's Friday, it decided to not work. Usually it works. Yeah,
that's exactly it. It's the Friday.
You should not worry about this because you would get mad if you wait these issues too much. Yeah, this will be fixed and tomorrow it will work. Maybe we can concentrate on all the questions I've already seen in your Discord and what the players and all the people out there want to know about CPU points or whatever topic we are covering.
It's difficult sometimes. I find it when it's difficult to talk about numbers and stuff like that. I generally find that, well, speaking personally, that it's a lot better to visualize and feel your way through these things, get a feel of it.
Nice.
So I'm hoping that this creative session actually loads, because at the moment it too is also sat at 100% structures. So might not just be a server thing. Oh, hi. Yeah, be all sorts of things. Stalk Gaming, dude, thank you very much for hosting. Loose for the 12 months. Big Feet for follow. Presidente, hell yeah. El Presidente from Tropico, thank you very much for the sub. Crazy and McFleur for the follow as well. Johnny, 100 bits, thank you very much. Fragalot, Vroomfondor. I've been missing this. Camp Crafty. Oh, thank you also for the follow. Yeah, we should be able to hopefully get game in game. This happened before where it just sits at 100% structures, but we give it sort of 5 minutes, it will come in at some point. Dude, sick with the $50 over on YouTube. My God, thank you, sir. That's awesome. It will load. It will load. Yeah, it will load. So, are you guys fairly sort of confident that you've allayed a lot of the fears that the community have with the changes you've made?
I hope so. Yes. So that followed the forums, I put a few infos here and there. We had intensive discussions in the team in the last week, and it's basically not that much about the numbers, because the number sets maybe something experimental is more about, but maybe for laying the foundation, because we took this feedback very serious as we released the first info about it, and everyone said, oh, this is going to be not that good. And we thought, oh, how can we improve the situation? So, and we did a lot of back and forth on it, and thought about it, and had ideas and trashed ideas. And then the final decision was that we would go with the CPU tiers. I will hopefully be able to explain on an example then. And so we are giving this whole CPU topic a bit more wiggle room. So we started first off with a 1 or 2 or tiered core concept, but it was quite obvious that this did not work out such good. So we had to move the experimental, because we said we cannot release this with half the thing not working, because it's a very fundamental change as mass and volume wars. CPU is as well a fundamental change to the game. And so we thought it's better to maybe do a second delay or a third delay, and give the players the possibility to test the whole system as we think it makes sense to the game, and not only parts of it. Because if you have parts of it, then how should you give feedback on the whole topic? So we worked the last week hard on it, and we've added a few new information stuff and worked out how tiers should work and how they should progress, and yeah, a lot of those details.
I really like the point that you made there about completing the feature before giving it over to everyone to test. I think that's really important, and obviously to get the full sort of feedback on the thing, it is very important to have that completed as far as you guys are concerned. And then obviously it's hopefully just down to the bugs or slight refinements and things like that, like you say. So that's really good to hear. I'm just in the creative session now, and I still can't spawn things in, so there definitely seems to be a problem with that. But it does look like I can bring in a starter block, so at least I can do a little bit of building, and we can actually see the CPU values in reality. One of the ships that been trying to use as a sort of benchmark example is the Cargo Frog, which is what I've been trying to spawn in, but I'll have to do it from memory. The Cargo Frog, in its default state, from what I remember, is about 36,000 CPU points. Now there are 3 tiers.
Yes, but basically four tiers. So tier 0 is basically the base,
just the core. Yeah.
And then you have 3 expansions. So for SV, we are going with 6,000 CPU points.
Yep.
For HV, we are going with 5,000 CPU points. For CV, it's currently 200,000, and for base, it's currently about 150,000.
Right.
So these are the tier 0 or tier 1, whatever you call it, and then you can upgrade. So you have a tier 1, and it's one of in the Twitch stream. I already said, hey, I have discovered 3 no blocks. Yes, we've seen them in your menu, and Yes. So maybe if you can already access this block, the starter block, you should see, yes, these are exactly. So basically there are 3 tiers. It's tier 1, tier 2, tier 3.
Yeah. So if we look at the control panel right now, with just the core, it's 6,000, which is exactly what you said. That's the base. So I'm a little bit confused though about how the upgrade of the CPU works. So if I've just got the core,
okay, you've got now you have the tier 1.
so
and I need to add these are placeholder models, so
yeah.
we can work with it and test it. So that will be nicer, and would you trust a block and fancy texture? So yeah, everyone can find it in this. So yes, okay. So you start with a tier 0 block, and then you are going to tier 1. This is basically you have to place the tier 1 expander.
Bits and bobs.
And when you have placed it, you should be in the CPU panel that you have 12,000.
12,000 confirmed. Yep.
So.
Okay. So then to go to tier 2, we've got a tier 2 block, or do we need? How many of these do we need? That's a tier 3.
It's always a double, so we need 2 of them.
So we need 2 tier 2s to bring it up to tier 2, 24,000. Yeah.
Exactly.
And then 3 tier 3s.
4.
4.
Yes.
Sorry. Yeah. Okay.
4. It's basically always double the CPU points and doubles blocks required. So it's a bit, yeah, it's linear. One block is worth 6,000 CPU points.
So that's still at 24,000 though, with the 4 tier 3 blocks there. That should go up to.
This should go up to 48.
48. Okay.
As I said, this is a new implementation. It will be ready for starting next week.
And also, sorry, I'm on a little bit of a delay. You should also by now be able to click a CPU statistics tab in the control.
Yeah, there we go. Oh, okay, so there we go. We've got a visual diagram of the upgrade.
This
allocated 8.
So basically, we are not adding the CPU points to the device info hover. So you might know from looking for mass and so on. But we've also decided that we want to give the players a more detailed overview what they're up to. So basically, on the left side you see the tier level then, and on the right side you will see all the costs basically. So think about the right side. The hull has certain costs and the devices. So if you spawn or if you build a vessel, you can basically see which CPU points or which devices cost what, and you have an overview. You can refine it, and you can see if something is too costly and remove it. And so this overview should give the players an idea and a good way to work with the CPU points feature itself.
Yeah, so that's not bringing in the devices yet either. So so that'll need to be addressed. But this is a first draft, obviously, like we say. So it's good to see it. I like the little diagram. That's nice to see, and I think that breakdown is going to be really helpful. Somebody just asked a really good question in Twitch chat there. What happens if one of these extensions gets blown up?
Okay. Yes, that's maybe the more important part about it. So the tiers do not really depend on each other. What means if you are lucky to find tier 3 blocks for tier blocks, you can place them on your vessel and you will unlock the tier 3. So basically, but if you only have these tier 4 blocks, these tier 4, you lose a block, you lose the level. And as you do not have a tier 1 or tier 2 completed, you're back to the basic level, basically to 6,000. So that's kind of the trade-off.
So do I need to have the tier 1 and 2 blocks attached in order to go to tier 3? I don't.
No.
Okay.
No.
So
you can freely place them at any tier. So you can start, if you have the blocks, you can start with any.
Nice. Which one
It's
does
not
the T
dependent
do?
on each other.
It's not the right. So I can have the base core, and then
Yeah, maybe you look at it. The extenders are more like they unlock the tier level and the CPU points you can use for this.
right. Okay.
And if you lose a working tier, so one of block or many, then you drop back to the next working tier. So if you had a tier 2 expander, 2 things, and you have an active tier 2, then if you lose the higher tier, you drop back to the next working level.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. I mean, I've just removed all the extensions there, and it's still saying 24,000. So.
As Uncle Sam said, the tier 1 and 2 are redundancy, basically.
Yeah.
You do not need them, but maybe if you're in a battle.
Okay. So ultimate question then: is it possible to turn all of this off?
You mean the CPU points as a feature?
Yep.
Of course. As we already have written in our Discord, we will do the following. For the experimental, the CPU system will be forced on, so you cannot deactivate it. This is solely because we want that everyone has a look on this feature and we gain the most or the feedback out of it. For the public release, we will set it to default off. So if you start a new game when 10.6 is released to the public, you won't have the CPU system activated by default. You can activate it if you want. Same accounts for the servers. They will have the same option. And at a point in the future, when we say the system is working good, everyone accepted it, we might think of turning this around. So we say if you start a new game with this release in the future, the system is activated per default, but you can still switch him off.
Okay. So just like the weights and volume system, then we can turn it off and on in the difficulty settings as we want to. Okay. Good stuff. But for new players that are coming into the game, because this comes up quite a lot on my channel and in Discord and stuff like that, is people sort of asking me how do I turn off block device limits and things like that. They don't seem to know that much about the difficulty settings and how they can change and what they necessarily mean sometimes. So for new players coming into the game, it will be default on eventually, will it? Or is it always going to be default off?
For if 10.6 launches, it will be default off for everyone.
Okay.
So because we say that's why we put it to 10.6 and possibly not to a major release like Alpha 11, because we say we have the chance to implement this and set it to default off, same as milestone volume, and then gather feedback when this is out in the wild. So we expect that a few players might at least switch it on even when it goes public, and we will dig for this feedback and improve on that, same as we did for the mass volume. But new players in 10.6 who never played the game or so will not have this default activated.
Fine.
Maybe.
Okay. So Alpha 11?
Maybe I could. Possibly. Maybe. I don't know. It depends how this feature develops and how the community reacts to it, which changes we need to make and what's coming from as feedback. Basically, it's the same as mass and volume. Mass and volume is still not default activated, although I think it has become better. There are a few open topics already, we know that. And but as long as we do not decide to switch this default on, these missing links are basically a bit in the background due to all the other features we are adding right now, like the CPU system or server optimizations and a few other things that will be important when Alpha 11 will be released on.
Because I suppose what I'm more interested in, I guess the sort of point of that question is, do we as builders and builders on the workshop and people that like to build in general, are they going to have to worry about CPU going forward? Is it prudent, I suppose, for us to build within the CPU limits anyway, regardless of it being turned off, or do we just build freely and forget about it, because probably only the multiplayer servers are the only ones that are going to use this, maybe?
Possibly for big. It depends what you want to achieve, because same reference as mass volume. The idea behind CPU points is to add certain kind of specialization, and a certain kind means that something that is not too rigid. Like we often see the discussion that players say, "Oh, why not add special class blocks like a fighter block and a starter block and a battleship starter block and so on." But yeah, possibly you could do that, but I think the CPU system itself is a bit more flexible, because what is a battleship, or what encompasses a transporter? This is pretty much opinion. Maybe this is not really set in.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it'd be too complicated to have different class of blocks. I mean, it's a small vessel, you make it whatever you want. Or it's a capital vessel, you make it whatever you want. I suppose, like I said to you earlier in chat, there are sort of classifications of things within Empyrean. I would say, if we're talking CV, you would say, okay, well, you'd have a starter CV, something that will get you A to B and do a bit of lifting. A bit of sort of what you're trying to move away from, I assume, in this is that sort of jack of all trades, do everything CV that's got 4 layers of combat steel and can destroy the world, I guess, which is fine. I think it's important to recognize the classifications that you have within Empyrean, which I would say would be a lifter, which would be either cargo or carrier, an explorer, which is a jack of all but reasonable, a battleship, which is armor, shields and guns and pretty much nothing else, and a factory ship, which is production. It wouldn't go down the traditional corvette, frigate, cruiser, because those definitions don't really mean anything to Empyrean. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yes, that's why we have avoided these classifications right away. Yes, there might be certain classes that fit Empyrean. I think this is of course true, but I still think a system that allows more freedom, whatever you would build, is not for the worse, because you said a lot of players may be concerned, will my design still work, or will I have all the freedom of building and so ahead. This pretty much depends how you define these. So CPU points, as well as other changes you might possibly make in the future, are adding a bit more challenge to the default, and that's the goal. So challenge. So
but like you said, it's off by default, and you can turn it off.
Yes.
Okay, so it's the same as weights and volumes.
Yeah. So if you want to build your 4 layers armored battleship with maximum, possibly you should consider you can do this, but maybe you need to switch CPU points off and maybe mass and volume as well. So yes, these are what I said. It depends how you define it. If you want to have any freedom of the game building, then this goes not well together with having a challenge, because challenge needs us to set a few obstacles, like something to master. It should be fair. That's the point. That's also the point about what we are doing in experimental, checking the values, addressing the values, and so on. But basically, as I noticed, basically you decided to play with mass and volume activated in your latest series, or in the series before as well. So, I don't think you want to do this to show mass and volume does not work, because you wouldn't play it then.
No, but I'll show that logistics don't work.
Yeah.
You know, that's a consequence. But mass and volume, I don't mind weights and volumes so much. I've gotten used to it. I actually find the challenge it adds to the game compelling, and it has logical sense and stuff like that. And CPU, to a degree, has logical sense as well. You know, a ship can only support so much stuff. What we need to obviously make sure is that it's not going to completely restrict and shut down the workshop and people's builds and things like that. But I think, to be honest, you've allayed that fear because you can turn it off. The problem might be that, or no, it's not a problem, sorry, let me rephrase that. What will probably happen, similar to weights and volumes, is that when it first comes out, bit of an uproar, everybody's a bit annoyed with it, but then we get used to it. Weights and volumes, for the most part, speaking mostly for myself here as well, we've gotten used to. And it's a challenge, and it's fun to overcome the difficulties and the challenges that weights and volumes bring in. I'm actually kind of looking forward, now that I've seen the CPU numbers. I've kind of been half-assed building a ship while you've been talking, Hummel. But now that I've seen the numbers and I know the different tiers, I'm looking forward to the challenge of building ships in a progressive manner that fit within those tiers. I think there's definitely some refinement that needs to go on in these numbers, which you're already well aware of. At the moment, this ship that doesn't even have any blocks on it whatsoever is at 9,000 CPU. So it's already tier 2. And these core extensions, how exactly do we get these core extensions? Because at the moment, we can only get them from the item menu. But going forward, they're going to be rare drops, aren't they?
Partially. Though the tier 1, you can craft like with an quite easy receipt. So we currently, as a placeholder, we set it to you need 2 cores and you craft a tier 1 extender. So there's nothing special involved. So we decided,
okay.
I think this will be kept this way because the first tier is maybe the most important. So going from tier 0 to double the CPU points to tier 1.
Which is the 12,000, isn't it? Yeah.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah, okay.
So you get with 12,000. The other tiers have some collectibles. So we split this up between the small and the large extender. So you can basically find those devices, not the device itself yet. So
the Optronic bridge and the Optronic
exactly.
metrics. Yeah.
So you basically for the you need the bridge and the Optronic matrix. The bridge is basically the for the tier 2, and the matrix is for the tier 3. So at the moment you can find them in alien containers. You can buy them from a trader in the orbit, and possibly add it to a mission. But this is basically to be defined. But we will keep the way that you need these collectibles for the tier 2 and 3. It's basically the same as the other values, drop chance, looting, pricing, up to feedback. So it's something we need to see in the experimental.
So if I've got a tier 3 ship in my factory, I don't need these components, do I? I can just put in the raw resources and spawn it in as normal?
Currently, yes. When you spawn it, you will have a tier 0. Because if it's a vessel from the 10.5, of course, you will go with the tier 0.
But let's say I've created a tier 3 ship with a tier 3 core extensions, blah 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 blah. I can spawn that in a survival game with CPU activated, and in the factory I'm still just putting in iron, copper, silicon, cobalt, etc., etc.
This should happen. I've added a receipt for these. We need to see how we do it exactly. That's not decided for the spawning yet. It's only for working with it. So, right. But yes, I see the.
So if I save this as 10.6 test SV3, I've already got 2. And go to my factory. So yeah, at the moment, copper, cobalt, silicon, carbon substrate, iron, neo, and sathium, and that's got a tier 2 core, which gives it 24,000 CPU. So that's okay, because I think, I love the idea of having to go out to a POI and knock over some containers and try and find some of these rare drops. Or I love the idea of having to go to a trade station and buying them. That actually gives a bit of progression in the game. But I know a lot of people would like the ability to craft these things or other ways in order to get them and stuff like that. But if the factory is ignoring them, then I think that's a happy medium.
Basically, yes, I read this quite often, and we have other other items that you need to find. I think until we implement the planned research and science stuff or feature, this will stay this way for now. So you have to actually find this. Maybe if we add these new features in the future, research, you can probably with a certain amount of work, you can research these, and then you you can still find this from the drops or from the loot, but maybe you have then an additional way next to buying or finding it, if you have the time for it or if the resources for it. You just research it and you may be able to build them. Don't know how this will be done because this is not yet in the pipeline, but possibly then at this point this will change a lot then.
Okay. I think that's fine. Yeah, it's like you say, it's in progress, isn't it? Okay. That's interesting. So, one of the big changes that some of you sharp-eyed viewers out there might have noticed with this ship that I've created, this ship will now work. This ship will now work and it will fly fine. Hopefully. But you might have noticed that I haven't actually included any RCSs.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. This is obviously just a piece of crap, but it doesn't matter. There are no RCSs in this ship, but what we're about to find out is that it doesn't need them.
Exactly. This is the new HUD. So.
Yep.
Already.
So the new heads-up display, all the flight information is now organized on screen in very, very nice, flashy heads-up display. And it changes when you're in atmosphere and in space as well, doesn't it? So you've always got a zero line when you're flying around, so you can find level with the playfield.
So the center of the HUD and the navigation element in the top center, and this will of course vanish when you go to space.
Yeah.
And the left side of course will not show the distance to the ground, but we keep the distance to the next planet as we always had in this heads up. And of course the right side with the speed meter, the max speed, and the booster will.
So yeah, the booster on the right, you might notice that I'm traveling at 70 meters a second at the moment. So SV's got another speed upgrade. Now this is the currently the fixed top speed. Is there any plans to go above that?
Currently this is the technical. So we not at the moment.
Okay.
We can maybe for the future. This has a lot to do with collision. So if you go too fast near the ground, like you show now in the video, it's if you go a lot faster, maybe it's an issue with collide. But
okay.
We discussed an idea. So basically, the playfield currently is about 1,000 meters high. So from the bedrock to the orbit, to 2,050. And there's a setting that the terrain height maximum is at 500 meters. So above 500 meters approximately, there should be no collider. So the idea we discussed has been that if you go higher up in the atmosphere, your maximum speed slowly rises. So the idea has been if you go closer to the orbit, your max speed is closing into the orbital speed. So yeah, this is an idea. So you can maybe fly faster in an upper atmosphere, the jet stream, basically. But on the ground, you're slower.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because I think I remember flying about 200 meters a second in space.
Yes, this is also changed. We are now at 200 meters for testing at the moment. Not 100% sure if this will stay this way, but
Yeah.
it seems like. So yes, and maybe some of our PvP players may also ask that the rockets might be a problem, because let's say the rockets are slower, so you fly forward and with 200 and then you slam into your own rocket. This has already been changed. So something that some of you might have asked for is that if you are speeding forward with 200 meters per second, you shoot the rocket, and the rocket will inherit the impulse.
Yeah, the rocket collides and it despawns. Yes. I get it all the time. Even it's a single player issue. It's not just exclusive to multiplayer. It's just yeah. Generally, I find that I've trained myself to just
I'm
not.
hearing it a lot from PvP players. So basically, that's why.
Well, in PvP, if you stop, you're dead. So you've got to be constantly moving and strafing and things. Otherwise, you're out. So yeah, that's really good to hear that the rockets.
Maybe also 2 words on the booster. Maybe if someone wonders. Currently, you can boost up to the maximum technical speed. You cannot boost above it. So the boosters are basically you bring your vessel up to speed faster, and for braking you can use backwards boost as well, so can make full stop even faster. So this is the idea behind the booster. We might expand on this.
So I can use booster in any direction?
Yep, it should work. So we've decided to keep it in each direction, because we did not see a real need to limit this forward. It's not exactly like an afterburner. You would expect only firing forwards, but as you have thrusters at all sides, why should not thrusters that have the capability of boosting, why should they only work in one direction?
Yeah.
So if you want to make a fast side move.
I've noticed that Shift W doesn't work anymore though.
No. What you can do is you see the little slide on the right. Hold CTRL and hit V, and the slider should slowly increase. It's a cruise control.
Hit what?
And you release it, and then it should stick. So just across the border, but you can preset.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I got you. So yeah.
Not only currently you only could go max speed, and now you could preset any speed.
Gotcha.
Of course, like in a car, you lose the speed if you press any direction key or forward again, and then we are working on this already. It's shown that the how you handle it with the buttons. So pushing buttons mainly a task at the moment. So this works, and the slider sticks to where it should.
Yeah.
You can roll, and so this would not remove it, but if you add VS.
O key still works. Good. So that's good, because by taking RCSs aren't out of the game completely. They're a very powerful component now, aren't they?
So basically, RCS always have been the device which added the torque. So for roll and yaw and we said we want to keep this device in, because for some vessels the spread of thrusters required might not be that ideal, because that has to do something with creative freedom again. So you are free to use an RCS, but it might stay quite costly. As I said, this is looked into with the numbers. We will look to the feedback and how, but you do not need to stack 20 RCS anymore. You can get pretty much, or you can get a decent torque out from the thrusters already.
So that's interesting. If you place the thrusters strategically, you will get all the yaw, turn, rotates from the thrusters. Yes. But if you cluster them together and limit their spread, they might be less effective. And that's where you might need an RCS.
Basically, yes. If you build a very narrow ship, this might not work, and then you're basically better off with an RCS.
Yeah. That's interesting. Okay, that should develop some interesting builds then, I think.
So
yeah, the
even if
RCSs are 750 CPU points. I'm just looking at the SV ones. They are very expensive for the CPU sort of things. Presumably, if you're already building up to, say, tier 4, max tier, you're building a pretty big SV anyway. You're probably going to need RCSs.
Yes. So you have still the options. I think this is a good part of it.
Yeah.
So maybe one word because see in the question already. If you upload a blueprint to the workshop, there will be 2 changes after the release. I'm not sure if it will be on experimental, but possibly when we release it to the public. So if you upload to the workshop, the upload information will include the current tier level and the efficiency. So if you go to the workshop as a planet, as a player, to submit to any vessel, you will have the selection or the search options for a certain tier and maybe certain efficiency level. So why the efficiency level? Because we did not make this tier progression and the CPU points too. These are not limited, so you can go with a tier 0 or a even tier 4, and you can max out your points, but you can still add device. So it will not break you. There will be no pop-up saying you cannot place another device because you maxed out your CPU points. It's not like the max limit, because you can still keep adding stuff.
Yep.
The only thing what happens is that your efficiency will be reduced. So if you are at the full level and you add more thrusters, you gain basically less thrust from all of the thrusters. This has currently the setting is, and I think this is what we will go in with in experimental, is that if you are 10 times above the level, you get a 50% drop. Yeah, Taylin, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I think this is the latest.
So this is a 50% nerf, for want of another word, maybe, of everything? Thrusters, RCSs, fuel efficiency, generator output?
Constructor crafting speed.
We have
turret rotation.
It always affects the basic performance parameters like turning speed. For the thrusters, it's obvious it's the thrust. For RCS, torque or the Newton meter were added, and so on. So you can do this, but you pay a price. So basically, what I want to say with this, the efficiency says if you're in the workshop and you download, if you submit to a build that is created in previous version, you basically will have maybe shown a tier 0 with a low efficiency. Then might need to update this. But maybe someone uploads a tier 4 ship with a slight penalty, and then okay, this is maxed out. Maybe this is tier 2 or 3. It can add another level of expanders to raise the efficiency again. So we will display this to the workshop, and this is nothing the uploader can change or set. This is calculated automatically.
So will the workshop, you'll get CPU efficiency. Will you also get the tier?
Yes, of course. It's primary information.
It's the primary information. So on the workshop, you'll be able to search by tier?
Yes.
Yep.
So the search options on Steam are inclusive. So they narrow down your search. So let's say you are searching a capital vessel. You click on capital vessel.
Yep.
And then you say, I want to have a tier 2 because my server I'm playing on only allows tier 2. So you select tier 2 and you should get
only get tier 2 CVs.
Exactly.
Okay, that's really good. That's going to be really, really helpful. What about on the the factory blueprints page within the game itself?
We will add this information to the location. I think this has not yet been done.
Yeah.
So the valid information will be added there.
Would that be added to the filters, or would it just be on the information tab on the right, do you think?
I think it will be on the information tab.
Okay. Okay, that's not too bad. It should be fine. I mean, blueprints. I don't know about anybody else, but I mean, my blueprints library is fairly extensive, but I know it fairly well, so it should be okay.
Maybe on the left, since on the library itself, I'm not sure if this does not overcrowd the information given there. So maybe we could think of a filter or so. I will bring this up.
Yeah, it would be nice if you can select CV and then you have the four tiers underneath it. Yeah, somewhere on there would be good. Would be good, but it's a nice to have, I think.
Yeah.
There may be some
most
more important things.
Maybe while we're at the workshop, we will of course allow to customize the CPU values of the devices, not the tiers. So the levels will be hard-coded, and we do not plan to let this be changed. But you can say my RCS on my server should only cost an apple, and so one CPU. You can basically do that, and that's what we discussed lately. Is what happens if someone uploads a ship which is built under this environment, so with a very cost reduced environment. What will happen to the upload or to the information shown on the workshop? And what happens is when the player uploads it from a customized game, the blueprint uploader will see, okay, this is a tier 2. It will not look at the custom values of the CPU of the devices. It will calculate the efficiency with the default value. So we do not fragment the workshop. So you can upload your vessel from your customized game, but players in the workshop will see it with a default value. So you're always clear what will happen if you load this game in a default game.
Right. Okay.
If this was understandable, it's just a scenario we have to.
Okay. Well, I might wait to see a little bit more about what that actually means, because I'm not quite sure I follow. But
yeah, basically, if we allow to customize the CPU values, you could load your game with your customized config. So your thrusters cost you half. So this would mean that even if you have built a ship which is tier whatever, let's say tier 2, and this in your game it's 100% efficient because you did not cost
someone else's, it wouldn't be. Yes,
exactly. But
I suppose that's going to complicate the workshop, isn't it? Because I mean, you've already got a situation where you've got builds on the workshop that have device limits turned off, for example. Yes, so I think most people that stick 10 Gatling cannons on their light tank, guilty, put in the description of said light tank that it is for games with device limits switched off.
Exactly, and this will be avoided because you cannot cheat this. The workshop will always read the default configs, not the custom. So the workshop will only show how your ship or your something you subscribe to will perform in your default game. Period. So there's no way around it.
Okay.
To avoid situations like you do not exactly know, can I spawn this? And then you come to a server and happy days, you have not looked at the max limit and I can use it. This should be.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I just loaded into one of my creative games. I've gone back to 10.5 because I need to be able to spawn some stuff in order to show examples. I know the CPU numbers are going to be all out of whack now, but non-existent. But I need to be able to spawn something in because I think for a lot of people that are going to be, I think a lot of people are going to build with the new CPU numbers. Because, like I said before, the challenge could be fun. It's going to be fun to try and figure out that progression again. So, well, actually, I need to get back on the planet first of all.
That's what CPU points about. It's for us. It's not only adding this possible specialization. We talked about quite a while publicly even, and but also adding quite a new challenge.
Yep.
So, as I said, the challenge should be fair. So this is what we are trying to achieve in experimental and with the public version, and that's why we do not make it mandatory, or we do not make it default on. So everyone can custom to it, and yes, and see if it works for them, and if not, you can. And because I see it in the chat, so we will not features maximums. There is no nuking the workshop. Each and every build will work. It might be defined if it works under the default configuration with CPU on, but if you switch CPU off, you can use it as. And maybe in a few weeks or months, when the system has grown a bit more or is a bit more mature, most of the stuff will be reworked and be showing new designs, like we have seen it with the mass and volume. And I'm pretty much sure nothing is nuked in the workshop. So this is overfearing. This is not.
Yeah. No, nothing's going to be broken unless you make it broken.
Even if you download a workshop item that is 10 million CPU, you could basically still use it. It's basically only moving slow, and you might rethink if you really need 10,000 RCS and 100 turrets and so on. These might be better situated in an environment where you say, I'm not interested in CPU, I want to build as I envision it. This is why we give these options, so everyone can tailor the challenge he wants to have to himself, and not has to accept something. That's never been our plan. So, and I should know that, as we have always tried to give options.
So what I've laid out in front of me here is a basic progression in vehicles that I would typically use in a game up to I've just included up to the first CV, because after that, once you get that CV, you're sort of off planet, you're mobile, you pretty much it's your destiny is up to you. Then you can get as much resources as you need, whatever. Starting with the Sparky here, which is a level 5 HV. Now already, I don't think it's going to tell me what the CPU count is, because the numbers are going to be screwed. 63,000 CPU, but and a HV's tier 0 CPU is 6,000.
Yeah, HV is 5,000.
5,000.
The 10.5 values are not representative anymore.
Yeah. So the numbers are all skewed.
But
the first thing that I would do in order to bring Sparky back in line here is take these RCSs out, because these are not.
Need them.
You will need them for HV.
You possibly will not need them.
You possibly will not need them, exactly. So with the RCSs out, it will reduce the number quite significantly. And then it's a case of anything else that can trim the fat, basically. You've got to think, I think, what do you absolutely need from each build? Do I need 2 fuel tanks? Do I need all these hover engines? That sort of thing. Yeah. The same goes then for the Nightshade. Take the RCSs out, first of all. Can it fly? Yes. And then trim the fat.
Exactly.
Yeah. So if those of you out there looking at your current builds, how to get them into CPU compliance, if you even want to, then that's what you need to do. Things like the Cargo Frog here has got a shield generator in the back. That's going to have to go, because the shield generator on its own is 16,000 CPU, which makes it tier 3 straight away, at minimum tier 3, right? Is that number staying, or are you thinking of lowering that number?
I think the numbers about turrets in particular, and I think all the shield generators, so those tactical components, I think will change.
Okay. Up or down?
For weapons, maybe up, because in the current 10.6 they're quite cheap. I did a calculation for the capture device. You can basically stuff all the turrets, and you do not even touch half of the CPU points of the tier 0. So this is not the goal. we need to see about the shield generator. We have not decided how we rate it in terms of comparison to if you use a shield generator, or for the HV, make your HV out of combat steel and CV as well. It's a bit. We need to see. It's not finally decided.
Okay. But the point is that we should be able to, within the tier system, bring most reasonable builds in line. Because for me, the most important ones are these ones that I've lined out here. Beyond that, I've got some seriously broken stuff. And this is what's probably going to be upsetting most of the people, but can't stress enough that you can turn it off. Okay? And I think, to be honest, though, eventually most people are going to be building within these CPUs once the numbers are refined, which is probably going to take a few releases, I think. The STO3 is going to be fine. I should imagine what will probably not be fine, if I can find it, is that. And and that. I suspect that is grounded forever. Except in games where CPU is not turned on. Now, there are some things that I can do to the Superlifter to maybe rescue it. Reduce the thruster count, take out the RCSs again, reduce that right down. But I suspect its sheer block count is what's going to be the hardest thing to deal with. But it's not gone forever, it's just not going to be in CPU games.
Yeah, possibly. If you, as you said, thrusters are costly. RCS are very costly, and basically they are currently, I think, one of the most costly, especially for CVs. The biggest thrusters for 3Vs are quite costly at the moment, but a few things, can possibly be replaced, and it's also, what you expect from your ship, and maybe this is something you need to take into account more after, when you decide to play with CPU, because yes, as I said, CPU is a bit about specialization and having a giant capital vessel with nearly a city on board in terms of devices, production, and so on.
What do you mean we won't be able to build Atlantis? Somebody already built it. It's too late. You can't take that away from us. Somebody already built Atlantis. So
yes,
yeah.
Right.
But no, I know what you mean. So because like I said at the beginning of the stream, it's the jack of all trades CVs and stuff that you're trying to sort of. And I get it, because I've tried to run multiplayer servers to encourage, where the rule set and the layout is to encourage specialization of ships, specifically CVs, but kind of a bit of everything. So I completely understand and even support what it is trying to go for. Because something like the Superlifter here, although its primary function is, as the name suggests, a lifter, it can do everything. It can fight, it can farm, produce, it has storage for days, and it can lift about 300 HVs if you haphazardly attach them all over the damn thing. So, yeah, it's a bit OP, I suppose.
But as I said, basically, maybe it works if you cut down thrust count, and it might work well or still okay in space, but maybe you would avoid to land it on a planet because you will not get away.
No, but it's designed to land on a planet. That's its whole purpose. It's a dropship. That's why it's got 8 XL thrusters on the underside of it. But no.
Talking about dropship, because I see in the question so we will re-add HV to SV docking in 10.6. So because I see this asked quite a few times. Yes, it will be back. We will refined it and made it work, so you can unload CV from a CV or an HV from a CV or dock it to an SV, bring it to the planet, pick it up again, and so on. So this will work in the public release of 10.6 already again.
That's good, and it can lift. You still only lift 1 HV at a time.
You can lift as many HVs as you can dock on an SV. The docking mechanic is basically the same as you can dock several SVs and HV to a capital vessel. So it's not limited to one by one. You can dock as much as you can lift. Yes, because maybe addition that the mass of a docked vessel is now added to your
so
carrier.
if you have 10 heavy tanks and stuff, you're probably not going to be able to lift that with an SV because you wouldn't have the thrust. So I think, well, we'll see, but I should imagine that the Imperial equivalent of Chinook helicopters are probably going to come in where they're very good at lifting 1 or 2 things, and that's about it. Beyond that, I think the CPU requirements probably be too high. You'll be looking at tier 4 in no time. Or if you're playing with CPU off, you can just attach. Hell, if you're playing with CPU off and you're playing with weights and volumes off, you could lift 300 HVs with an SV.
Yes.
Off you go. Have fun.
This is a feature that not depends on CPU.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So that's more to do with weights and volumes. But CPU will play a part in everything if it's turned on, because weights and volumes will obviously mean that you have weight and volume, and everything need to be able to lift it, which means you need the thrusters to lift, which means you need the CPU points to add thrusters. So
just reading why have large thrusters like the reason. I'm not really understanding
the XL thrusters, I presume he's talking about, because their CPU, I forget, I'm out of 10.6 now, so their CPU is something ludicrous.
Yes, it's quite high at the moment. The problem with the thrusters, I spoke about the thruster rebalancing I did. For HVs and SVs, we have different tiers of thrust. So you have tier 1 and tier 2, and SVs are getting tier 2 M and L thrusters with 10.6 as well, and they also get a tier 1 L thruster. So they are more similar to the choices you have with an HV. For the CVs, we only one lineup of thrusters at the moment. Maybe we can improve this in the future. So maybe basically this is also a question of the experimental, because it also comes down to the values. So let's see what you can build with the values in experimental before making a choice on this. Yes, the values for the XL thrusts are quite high, but for the CV as it stands now, if this does not get increased, you also have a max tier of 1.6 million. So yeah, if you can basically add 2 XL thrusters if the values are not decreased, possibly, which can happen at any time.
Is just going quickly back to SV to HV docking. Is that as far as it's going to go, or are we going to see interdocking between everything at some point?
For 10.6, it's only SV HV dock. So reworking the whole docking concept, this master slave thing. So like you have master docking unit like the capital vessel or the base, and then you have smaller units you can dock. Yes, we talked about this already. For now, it's the HV-SV docking. We might consider a rework maybe in later stage of alpha or in the beta when we have the time to do it, because it's quite time consuming to rework this whole system. What might be possible, this is also something we have discussed, is something like a tractor beam. So something that works within a playfield you do not really need to dock. You can just carry something away. This is a possibility we have explored, not yet added. It hasn't got an ETA or so. It's an addition to the docking system, but the dock everything with everything is not yet on the list.
Can we just take a moment in the chat to appreciate the fact that Hummel just said tractor beam? Yeah? Everybody take note of that, because we want a damn tractor beam. You've said it now.
Basically, yeah. As I said, we have discussed this. If we when we talked about the AH3 as we talked, we said maybe we couldn't do it in a different way. And this is basically the first idea we came up with. But the downside of is that the tractor beam would only work within a play field. So you cannot carry it in something into orbit or down from orbit. So we decided to go the other way and work the other system. So
have you seen the way that Starbase is handling cargo and stuff like that? Because they use a very similar sort of tractor beam-esque kind of thing. They have it looks like a sort of field of influence, as it were, almost like a see-through cage. You put stuff in it, turn the tractor beam, and then it holds it in place inside the ship. Is that?
Then they are using immobilization field kind of. I'm not sure if this would work. As our developers say, nothing is impossible. I'm not currently not sure if this would work.
Could you poke him and just say the word logistics to him, please?
Yeah. If you want to talk logistics, maybe one word about this, because I've seen this question already in the forums, and so why do you not finish this and add there are a few missing touch points, like you cannot use logistics with terrain placeables, and the factory is not added to it, and a few other places. Yes, we are aware of this, and as I promise, as soon as we rework, if we work further on the mass and volume, maybe already soon, we will address these. So not 10.6, maybe in 10.7. I'm quite sure it will be added for Alpha 11. Possibly. Don't quote me on this, but I think this is closer than you all think. And
I hope so.
Because
there's quite a lot to the logistics system. Just you've obviously said placeables, you said the factory and things like that, but it's also the drop downs, the menus, and it's the using of logistics that I think needs a lot of sort of tidying up and user experience. I know it sounds as boring.
Maybe put it this way: when the logistics is finalized, or all touch points are dealt with, and maybe a bit convenience is added, then there might be the point where mass and volume gets the switch to be default on with the option to switch it off, but not earlier. So before this logistic stuff is not fixed, this will not be mandatory. And this is also the reason, although we added it quite a while ago, we did not change this, because we did not add all the other stuff that is useful. Though there's a reason behind this. This is just not mandatory at the moment.
Okay. I think I can get behind that. I think that'll be fine. Because I think the community, like I said before, has had enough time now to adjust to the weights and volumes stuff. If logistics is more user friendly, because I think every time I go back to how would a new player react to this? You know, when you see a new player, put yourself in the shoes of a new player, and you give him or her the logistics system, and then say, there you go, good luck. How long do you give it until they rage quit? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think if that's tidied up and made good, then turning weights and volumes on by default will be fine.
Maybe it's a bit a different topic. Let's call it onboarding of new players. We can do more about this, and it's currently already discussed, and we added a few infos here and there, basically to consider the what you can do with the new LCDs. and then the projector it's having at least an info box that explains the most important things. And these info boxes, I think this is the first touch point for the player. If you open constructor or something, then you have this little marker and you hover over it and you get explanation. That's one part. And we are discussing currently a few other things there where players that are entirely new to the game, so never played Imperium before, get more information how things are going to work. It's quite difficult to add this in the game, not because it's impossible, but also finding the time to do it. As you all see, this team is not that large, so developers, and we can only work on one priority each. So currently things need to be done, and
I think most of the community appreciate that. It is a small team. It is a small team. But if it's a question of sort of time and things like that, then I mean, speaking on behalf of the community, I don't think that we overly mind that much if you guys take a little bit more time, if you need to, between major features, in order to make sure that they're done to completion, as it were. A little bit more.
A little bit. Yeah, maybe that's also a topic. So at one point you need to release new stuff.
Yes.
Because you cannot wait too long. So something see it at from the 10.6. So we first thought, we could basically release this, but we then said, okay, no, we cannot do this, and we thought we were aware that the players have possibly waited for this date and said, you're not going to release this, and bit of upset players, but I think most of the community understood this. And even if we did the latest delay, people said, yes, take your time. And we're very grateful to have such a community that understands that if we think, this is really not ready for experimental, we have to delay this. And we do not want to have someone touching this and throw it away because it does not work at all. Yes, we're really grateful that. Yeah, I think 98% of the community agreeing on that.
You're always going to get the loud, outspoken,
of course,
grumpy bastards out there.
But that's understandable.
It's just the internet. But I mean, the important thing is to not overreact to it. Really, I would say standing your ground is sometimes a good start. Measuring the response, obviously, if you're getting 98% pushback, then maybe you need to do something about that. But if you're getting 2% pushback, I'd say it's fairly safe to ignore and carry on. No, I completely understand.
We're pretty straightforward on this. So those that are longer with playing Imperium and have gone through a few major releases, there were occasions where we said, we need to pull back this feature. There has been a few occurrences, I'd say, that we said, this was possibly not the best idea, we'll pull this and do it the other way. So, and everyone was okay then. So we really value the feedback we are getting from Discord, from the forums. I mean, in several Facebook groups, and so we have the eyes on the community, and it's really important what everyone writes.
I really don't know any other game that has such an active and willing community to test the game with. I think it's quite safe to say that with every release that you guys make, that the excitement is palpable in most cases. Whenever, it's like when Shields came along, everybody was very excited about that. And then you get things like weights and volumes and CPU now, and everybody's very up in arms about that. But it's not that. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing. I think it just does. It shows how passionate everybody is about your game.
Yes, absolutely. So
So
I'm community manager this year, I think 15 years, and I think this, yeah, I've also never seen a community like this. So like this dedicated and people that speak. Of course there are always, yeah, some meltdowns or rages and so on. Yeah, that's always understandable for me. And if this does not go too wide, then we see this in the forums and say, okay, yes, you need to steam off. Okay, you might not agree how the game is progressing in this way. Yeah, okay, we need to we will include your feedback and we will work on this. Yeah, that's what I said. This really
okay.
matters, and that's, yeah. Otherwise, it would not work any different way.
Okay, I'm going to ask you some of the questions that I prepared before the stream. Some of which we've kind of already spoken about a little bit. So, but let's just go through these now, and then what I'll do is I'll go on to the Discord questions, community questions that were asked. We have a bunch on Discord. We have a bunch on when I say a bunch, a few on the forum as well, and stuff. So, and then I'm going to drag Kugerbok, who I assume is still patiently waiting. No, he's buggered off. All right. See if he can come back. Hopefully he's been taking some questions from the chat and we can go through those as well. But let's go through the ones that I've prepared already. So we've kind of already covered this, but just for the benefit of the stream and so that we can have basically a sort of summarized straight up answer, what would you say the CPU point system is supposed to achieve exactly, if you had to pin it down?
Yeah, the pin it down, it's about specialization, adding some challenge to building and to the game. So basically nothing. This is the main goal of CPU.
So it's not about performance?
No. There might be some performance effects on you place fewer blocks or devices, but this is not the goal. The performance stuff, that's the size classes, and this is where performance is about. The CPU points are not about performance.
So it's this specialization thing. It's
yes.
Directing builds more.
Yes.
Builders, I say, more to sort of.
Exactly.
Okay.
It should add a little challenge, a bit specialization.
Is there a long-term goal to CPU?
Possibly.
Is it leading to something else?
Currently, as I said, it's specialization. Not sure. We will see. I think there's no big secret plan behind it that I am aware of at the moment. Yeah, maybe possibly if users have any ideas what we can go with it. So as in the past, we are listening to those feedback. So if someone has it, you can use CPU points 4, double point, and then of course we listen. So, but for the moment, it's only the specialization.
Is it something that you're planning to integrate into the narrative of the game?
Sorry?
Yeah, so the story, the story arc and the lore and stuff like that, is CPU going to be taking an active part within that sort of stuff?
I don't think. It's more an element for the building challenge and the survival challenge.
Okay.
It's not crossing the lines on the story as alone.
Okay, that's fair enough. So just specialization. Okay. The challenge, ladies and gentlemen. The gauntlet has been laid. Get building. Right. So my next question, again, we've sort of touched on this briefly. So recent developments such as weights and volumes, now the CPU and the flight controller, really make me think that EGS is going for a more simulation style of gameplay. Would you say that's accurate?
No, I would say not really. So what maybe if you use this term simulation, we add more content to the physics simulation possibly. So we have not talked about it today, but 10.6 already adding a new flight mechanic, so you can have aerodynamics, and you basically can build if the surface under your vessel is big enough, you can basically lift off and fly with only one thrust. and this is maybe some sort of adding to the physics simulation, but the game itself is not going in any simulation direction.
So you the game is still very much creative, sandbox.
Yes.
Yeah.
The game should make fun, and it should open a lot of options. So we do not, how to put it, we will not get into battle with Star Citizen or any other, or a Kerbal or whatever. You can
name them. It's fine. You can say the word space engineers. It's all right.
Or space engineers. Is space engineers real simulation?
Yeah.
Maybe you simulation for me. It's I'm coming from the space genre. So I've started with X-Wing, where the TIE Fighter and Wing Commander and all this stuff, down to even Homeworld and all this relates. So I think if we say, is Imperium going to simulation, I have these games in mind. Like nowadays, it's Star Citizen more, so where you have a lot of options and details and switches and gizmos and what you can do and not do. So I think this would not really fit Imperium.
I'm glad to hear that, I must admit, because I think part of the magic of Imperium is that it has that more casual approach to its mechanics. Yes. We can quite casually throw together pretty much any shape we like for a ship and get it to work. And in the sort of more simulation-based games, you have to have thrusters set out like this, or you have to have these components set out like that, and you have to have. So, I'm glad to hear that.
But I think it will stay like this because, as you said, this is a point. It should be. It should make fun, and we will not say to go to space you need this thrusters and so many fuel, and in orbit you then need to. You cannot use the auto brake, but you need to calculate with your speed. It's too complicated. Sorry. If I want to play this, maybe there are other games, but I think for Imperium it's just entirely.
Okay. So again, next one we've sort of brushed on, I suppose. I'm going to ask it anyway because I think a succinct answer here might allay some fears. But so the question is, I think it's safe to say that there are a lot of worried players out there watching right now. Hi. Concerned that the changes Elion are making will not only break their creations, but massively limit creative freedom for the game. I think I touched on this earlier, but I don't think simply stating that you can turn it off is enough, because as we all know, with weights and volumes, just as it happened with weights and volumes, designs on the workshop will be expected to comply with the new limits, whether they're default or not. What can you say to these players, myself included, to reassure them that creative freedom is not being suppressed with the new CPU system?
Yeah, but basically we touched this earlier today already. So we will have certain measures in place. So first, the tier system. So it covers quite a wide range of workshop items should be covered already. Second is, of course, the efficiency grade. So no workshop item will break. It might be a bit less efficient. So you can still use it and work on it. Third is, of course, I a bit disagree because I think that the switch to choose if you want to play with or without CPU points, the same as you choose if you want to play with or without mass and volume or base attacks, so makes a big. This is very important because the game is offering or tries to cater to different approaches. So if you're up for a challenge and you don't want to go the easy route, you get those systems on and you manage to you master them. You're mastering this challenge. And if you don't want this, and this is it's pretty much like to not want this, then you turn the button off. And basically, for us, we try to offer this or to offer certain ways to play the game. I think the giving options is one essential element of Imperium. So you can basically, as it is a sandbox and an open world, you can decide or tailor the challenge you want to have to your needs, and you don't have us saying you need to do this and you need to use that. And I think this, so in this sense, the settings we give are a very important part of it.
I think that's an important thing to remember, isn't it? That because I'm reminded of the sort of multiplayer servers that I've tried to run and currently run and things like that, and how ultimately customizable the game actually is. You can pretty much make it as difficult as you want to make it. I think there's a more general consensus among the building community in Empyrean that for the most part, they'll build to the most difficult settings. So they will build to weights and volumes, for example. Now they will build, well, when 10.6 goes public, they will build to the CPU tiers. But ultimately, for the individual player, you can make it as difficult or as easy as you want to.
Yes, and that's part of the game as well. So maybe you also can customize it down to the values of the device. Maybe it's you need to work a bit on the files. This also a topic we might consider as to work on to make it easier to maybe even submit or try to configs from the workshop maybe as a future goal. So if you're a new player and you say, oh, this config is very popular and I want to have kind of different feeling from the default game, you can make this. So you can add it to the game already now with a bit of file work. You can do it. So it's part of the game to have this being customized.
Yeah. Okay, good. So the next question, you're going to love this one. So there's a bit of a meme going around the community that Elion only develop new shiny stuff and implement these things half finished. Logistics are a good example. Block shapes, weapon balancing, another one. It's not a great reputation to have. Are there changes in practice that Elion are implementing to help make features more complete before release?
Yeah, complete. It's matters a bit how you define complete. What we aim for with a release. I hate to say this because it always sounds like an excuse, but this is a game still in alpha state. And alpha state means you stuff in all the features you will need in the full game.
Nailed it.
Because we're quite limited on personal, we will make sure that a release like 10.6 public or maybe alpha 11 has features that actually work. It makes a difference if I look at feedback that says, why didn't you add this type right now? Or how should this work? And couldn't you have added this that way? And so complete in a sense of a feature encompasses every possible variation or method a feature could consist of. Possibly is asked a bit too much at the moment. So we try to make sure that the features that are released to the public are working. And if they don't, we will rework them. But maybe as we talked about the logistics, basically the topic, we decided to not make mass and volume mandatory. This leads to logistics, or the finishing touches on logistics have been moved back a bit because we had new stuff to work. Also, the topics often heard about weapons, weapon balancing. We do this in a smaller extent constantly. Basically. So there might come a time where the weapon topics, for example, is more pronounced because we already have internally made a plan which possible weapons to add. And then in this context, same as at the moment when we talk about CPU points and thrusters, I did a complete rebalancing of thrust. Then the time will come that in this context, we will do possibly complete rebalancing of weapons by adding even new weapons. And we are going forward in steps. So to make something complete, or maybe put it a different way, the alpha, we aim for to have all the features in the game. So they're working projects and candidates. And maybe the fine-tuning, building up these features or extending it also accounts for the base attacks and other features.
See, I sort of agree. I agree with you on points there, but I also disagree with you on points. So I agree that obviously especially when it comes to things like balancing weapons, balancing thrusters and stuff like that, that's an evolving thing. I mean, you could look at a game like World of Tanks, for example, that's been out for donkey's years, and they're still changing numbers with every release and stuff like that. So I get on board with that absolutely fine. I think the main issue that I have, and I think a lot of the community have, is that I'm going to pick on logistics here, okay? You've brought out weights and volumes, and you've sort of backtracked on it. So I know that obviously weights and volumes is not on by default, but you've given a challenge. You've laid said gauntlet and said, here you go, it's weights and volumes. Go and build. Good luck. But because you sort of backtracked on it, you've given a half-completed logistics system that makes using it very painful. So I suppose the question is more to be, going forward, obviously let's put a pin in logistics and go, that's going to be sorted. We've already answered that. That's going to be sorted. But when it comes to CPU, for example, just to pick on that now, I can't see anything at the moment. Obviously, there's a lot of obvious problems with it right now. Numbers are still being finalized. There are problems with the CPU stats not updating. We all know these problems, that's fine. But when it comes to actually putting it out public, I just hope that there isn't going to be an aspect of it that you're going to backtrack on and say, oh, we're not turning it on by default anyway, so we'll just leave that until Alpha 12. Leaving a bit of a frustration in place for the players that actually do want to play and work with that feature. Do you know what I'm saying? Do you understand?
Yes, absolutely no. But maybe it's not directly comparable because the logistics is working without mass and volume. Basically, it's working as a convenience feature. If you do not use mass and volumes, it's still working because you could basically use it. So it's basically it's a technical convenience feature which was required for mass and volume to work in the first place, but it's not quite finished yet. So for CPU points, there is not something like this. So CPU points are more not sure how to put it, more cohesive or more profound change. So there are a few elements that need to work. Like it's a lot about the values, of course, and it's about the tier, and it has nothing like the logistics system that would work without it. So we have the first iterations, the CPU system was a bit connected to the aerodynamics, but we have completely separated this, so they do not interfere with each other. So basically, the aerodynamics work without CPU points, even to the latest to any change. So for mass and volume, it's a bit more complicated. I admit that, and as I said, we're pretty much aware of this, and I think this logistics stuff is one of the next topics already, because we hear you and we want to get ready with this mass and volume and at some point switch the trigger. So I think this is really something that is brought on the table soon. And maybe this also, we only speak about logistics, but this encompasses all kind of automatization, filters for cargo box and so on and so on. So there's a lot of stuff around this, basically calling it logistics. And if we say to our developers, or one developer says, I'm now working on this, why should he work only partially of it and then not do the rest as well? So it's growing to a bigger topic, which needs more time. So we did not have that time at the moment, because we're currently preparing. I'm not sure I've said this already, but we're preparing for multi-solar systems, and this is a load of work, refactoring nearly a lot of code. And
Wow. Yeah.
this does not. So you if you're a player and you might want, hey, now they are working at the CPU points, logistics. Hello, why not finish this? Yeah, basically because the guy who was working on the logistics is now knee deep into this refactoring or this multi-solar system. So it's not that easy to say, okay, we just need to finish this, but the priorities are more to make really deep or profound features ready for the next release. And this is not creating sexy pictures or releases or features. It's basically work in the background. And then it happens that something like logistics is moving a bit in the background, and people wonder why we did not finish it. And we know this, but currently we have to do something else, and then it moves a bit.
Right. Is that sustainable? That method of development, is that sustainable? Because I mean, at some point you're going to run out of big major features. So if
you run out on big major features, we're pretty close to the beta then.
Right. Okay. which actually leads me on to a question further on. What milestone do you think you'll see the game move from alpha to beta? If you can say.
Yes, we have not a date, but as I indicated at the moment, so there are only a few major changes. I think it's my personal view on this that are required for going to beta.
And do you have an idea in which order you're going to be going through those major features?
Currently, as I said, we are preparing multi-solar. This is, I think, one of the features this is missing, because it's basically an alpha feature. You change the way how the universe is created, so it's really rooted, and it may break a few things.
I'd be surprised if it didn't.
Surprise. And but the gain from it is that that we have much broader world, and we are going to a point where everyone is looking at. So as I said, we are currently preparing this, but for the changes you also need to think of the side effects, because it's not only to have more systems than one. You need to think of how is warping done, or how do you get from one system to the other. How is this handled technically? So this is currently worked. So in Alpha 10.6 we have trained the playfield servers to load more than one playfield, more than one orbit.
Well, aside from the obvious technical challenges as well, you've got the challenge of variety.
Yes, exactly. So we need to think. So how do we fill all the systems?
Yeah.
We cannot create a gazillion of planets. This would not work. So there must be something more procedural. Same for the POIs. How do they integrate into the game? Maybe we need to have other celestial objects, like players always wanted to have gas giants, and maybe we open up this solar field, so you actually have a sun in way which you can visit. If you survive it, may be a different topic, but no, it's all, as you said, it's also content, and this is creating side projects over side projects over side projects, and this is growing into a big update.
Yeah,
but no one currently outside the dev team can see what we're actually working on. So that's why I'm saying this quite often. We do not ignore this feedback. When we are aware, coming back to the logistics topic, that this is a big need to be fixed, and we already talked about this internally. But,
I think out of most of them, logistics is probably a bit more of an exception to the rule with you guys. Because, like I said, there's the obvious stuff like weapons balancing and stuff like, which is an ever-evolving thing. There's core content like new planet types, POIs, and now multi-solar systems, which again are probably going to be an ever evolving and ever adding thing. But when it comes to sort of functional features that kind of change the way we have to play or choose to play the game, that's where it's a little bit, I think, more, or it can be more frustrating when things are not entirely usable.
Yeah.
And logistics is I think an extreme example of that. But do you know what? One thing that I've noticed that you guys are doing a lot more of, talking to us.
Yeah.
Things
Yes.
like this. Hi everyone. Yes. So I think going forward, you've seen what's happened with weights and volumes and logistics, and you've seen the concern around CPU, and so doing things like this more and talking to us more, I think is really going to help everyone. It's going to help you guys get a more honest sort of feedback. I think it's going to help the community hear you and hear what you're up to and what you're doing, what the plan is.
Yeah, we've basically decided to go this route. We've never done this.
Yeah.
We have released a few teasers in the forums by time, and but we have seen that because we are now talking about features that are really deeply rooted in the game and core, it changed the core of the game to some extent. We need more feedback even before we might want to go to experimental. And I think this, how we done this time, has helped a lot to improve the situations or the thoughts in the team with more additional feedback, and come to a point where the experimental you guys are going to play in a week or so or next week, is much better status than it would be 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's really good. I'm going to try and sort of speed up the questions now so that we can get into the community ones. So my next question is, taking it really, really, really back to the original. What was the original vision for Imperion when you guys started?
Okay, I wasn't there yet, but
yeah,
I think
you've always been there.
Yeah, I joined the team, I think 2015. So I was quite early in the team, so quite a long time. I think the initial idea was based on a Minecraft in space, or better to say Minecraft with space, because Minecraft already has allowed a lot of creativity. You could build stuff, you could even move stuff, except stuff did not really move except the mining cart, of course. But it was a lot of static. You could not leave the place, you could not go to space, and I think this is where the basic idea came from. So to do the same, to allow freedom of building creativity and as an initial idea, but also to allow this kind of exploration in more than one dimension. So not only a planet, but at a point where you have mastered the planet, you have a show nature where where Thor throws his hammer also. You can go to space and explore more worlds. I think this is has been the initial idea, or
Minecraft in
inspiration.
Space.
Yeah, with space. Yes, basically this is a direct this coming from, at least as I heard. So
yeah, that's that is pretty much how I describe it to anyone who asks me what I do on YouTube. What do you do on YouTube? I play a game called Imperion. Oh, I've not heard of that. It's like Minecraft in space. Oh, yeah.
It's a pretty good description, because Minecraft is known to nearly quite everyone who is into games or so, and so you can basically transport the message quite exactly.
I'm going to skip the next question because we pretty much just answered that. So me and you specifically, we've been talking recently about story, lore, and narrative quite recently. So would you say Empyrean is going more towards just the sort of sandbox experience where players can make their own journey, or narrative driven, so story driven, lore driven journey, or a bit of both?
I would say both. Maybe we have added quite some story elements to default randomly. So when I talk about Empyrean, I'm always talking about this randomly generated single player game most of the time. So this is a point where quite some elements of the story already happen. A few missions have already been added, and if someone goes through these missions, he might get a glimpse of what the story behind this is.
Yeah.
Of course, in a random generated game, it's always a bit problematic, or not problematic. It's more challenge that you, if you want to tell a story, you need to be able to say what, or to foresee what the player might be up to, what he's doing, and also where he is. And it's, if at the point where the player is leaving the starter planet, this getting increasingly difficult to square. So I think the idea, as although this is not really set as a plan, but because I'm working on the lore and the story content and the missions a lot, is that we might have a scenario where you have the story of Imperium as a single player experience. So you played through the story, a little bit guided, free on your approaches, how to do a mission or to progress the story. And the main game is that's the default random game you can generate. It's more about the world itself. I would put it like you have a game, and then you have an MMO based on this game. So you see the places and the events in the big world as a side information, or you visit the same places, and maybe some missions are similar, or you can you can live through this.
So also, so the story, the main sort of story arc is going to be on the Akura Omicron scenario.
Maybe. I'm not sure if this is a Akura Omicron scenario, but maybe, I say maybe.
Right.
It's separate scenario, because in my understanding, I might be wrong on this, and we might find more ways to do this in the default random game as well.
Yeah.
Is that if you want to tell a good story, it needs to be a little bit linear.
Yes.
It's a bit against the usual approach. Nowadays, games tend to be open worlds, and you're putting the narrative into random encounters, maybe guided, maybe not.
Yeah.
It's my personal opinion that it's linear may be better, but this is not decided. So
I've got no problem with a linear story. I think a lot of people generally don't have a problem with a linear story, because that's 99.9% of stories in the world. They have a start, a middle, and an end. So, you know, if you have a sort of fixed solar system, that you have a clear progression, a story that you want to go through, and you want to tell that story, go for it, I say. Because the random scenario is your sandbox. And if you want a good story and you need to have a sort of fixed world in order to tell it, then Akura Omicron would make sense to me in that one.
So if Texas has invested a lot of time in this PDA stuff and triggers and how we start a mission and so on. So if we manage to put this story into the random game, we will do it. But at the moment, I think it's more that it may become, or at least the opening and so on, is more a separate scenario, and the full story, I'm not decided. Depends on how the PDA stuff evolves, and the randomly generated world also has some issues, because you cannot reference something that you do not know if it's created or not. And this is a bit of a problem of the randomization process, which I would not have when I create a scenario which everything is at its place where I expect it to.
Well,
So yeah.
have you played Subnautica?
Not really. I've followed a lot of videos on it.
So Subnautica was quite unique in the way that it told its story. Subnautica has a fixed world, so it's not a random world, but it doesn't give the player any guidance really. It's a sandbox game in that it says, "Here you go. Here's this world. Off you go," and then it gives you clues to find, and you have to go and find them, and those clues lead you to more clues, and so on and so forth. And there's a few little fixed events here and there, but ultimately it's following a series of breadcrumbs in order to take you to certain places on the map.
That's pretty much, that's a good approach basically, but this only works if you know how the world is looking like.
Yeah.
So
well, that's what I'm saying. You
can
could do that with the Akuta Omicron scenario.
So currently for the PA, we recently added a feature that you can you approach without having activated the mission in the PDA. You approach a defined person or so, and this will get you a mission. So this is a pretty new element of the game. So we can make the way how we transport messages to the player or how we activate pretty much more flexible then. So we could not do this before. Before, we need to rely on the player had to go, or if the player started, and we could say on game start, we could activate it one chapter. And if the player completes this chapter, we can exactly activate the next chapter, but not spread out a lot. And now we can say basically, so if you crash down on the planet, I don't need to give you any mission. So you stroll around on the place, you run into this wreckage. And then I can say in the PDA, the player has approached this wreckage, show him a message.
Yeah. I like that.
Same I can do for the Titan and so on. And this is a direction which allows more flexibility in the randomly generated world, especially, but also in a set scenario or in a fixed scenario where I can say I can add in some randomness or side missions, like you know it from the big single player games like whatever Mass Effect. So you run into your desk and you find a PDA and consume and picking up this PDA then triggers a mission because I can say, hey, this player has found this PDA in this container, and maybe as we approach these ideas, the process of telling the story is becoming easier for those that create the story, but it's not that artificially guided in a way that you need to always look into your PDA and activate the next mission, because this is maybe a bit, moving you out of immersion if you have always go into the.
Yeah, no, I like that. That sounds really promising. I can't wait to see what you guys come up with, because it sounds like there's going to be some really cool stuff. I hope you tie more stuff into the base attack mechanics as well, because I think one of the most fun things that I done in the game was that base attack scenario. It was just such a giggle.
It was our first project on the new AI and the base attack, and even included we have the PDA. You can, if you are capable of writing a C#, you can even do a lot more stuff with the PDA now. And this base attack scenario was basically a project around all these features. I think it worked quite well. So
yeah, it's really nice. Okay, quickly moving on. Do you have a rough date in mind for Alpha 11? Coming to experimental?
Not at the moment. We are currently discussing if we are going to Alpha 11 right away after 10.6, or if we will have a 10.7, maybe with more refinements, bug fixes, and so on. But this is not really
Christmas.
Before, hopefully, if 10.7 is planned, maybe this should be around or before Christmas, hopefully.
Okay.
If Alpha 11 might be next year, so possibly it's as it looks at the moment. I think it's the chance best that it's a 10 point, but this has not been decided.
Okay. Alpha 11 for January, folks. Taking out any Cool. Okay. Are you planning to conduct any other surveys like the one from 2015 to see what features the community are most interested in? It might be quite interesting to compare now that several of the big features from previous survey are in the game.
Currently, there are not really plans, but I thought maybe it's a maybe. Currently, the requests, as I see it in the forums, have not changed that much. I'm doing few threads once in a while about these questions. So what do your 3 top next things you want to see? And the focus is still very, very similar to what the service. Of course, we have from the most wanted features, we have made from the list like larger planets and mass and weight and NPC interaction, standing, and so on and so on. But or shields also, but it's still like missing elements, skills or research. So the tech tree rework and NPC interaction like crews also. It's still under the most frequent reported requests. So for the moment, we do not plan to do another survey. Can change any time, but I think at the moment we are working through this.
There's still plenty on the list, isn't there? That's right.
Yeah, I digged out this the from survey from 2018, and I quite happy that from the most wanted feature we have moved some from the list already.
Yeah.
This list is getting smaller. It's breaking down to solar systems for the most part. Shields are already in. The skill system and the NPC interaction. So yeah, we're coming closer to finish this list. Of course, there are more additional features on the secondary list, but these are like HVS we're talking, so we can move this from the list and.
Okay, that's good. Yeah. Do you think there will ever be a time where it will be a good idea to have a development roadmap and a timeline to release?
Yeah, this is always a bit problematic. You guys know us. We are not a lot into giving these types of lists because they change too often. So you're running into a feature and you have promised something, and then you need to move it, and there the problem begins. I'm seeing this a lot in other games. So especially also Star Citizen. So they are big in a huge team and have a lot of people programming and so on, but they tend to shuffle entire segments of their roadmap to a later game, and then the discussion starts. So I think currently the survey of 2018 is a feature set where we are trying to work towards. So this is not really a roadmap in terms of we will do that and then that, but it's more a promise of features or features, a to-do list. Yes. Yeah. I think we're better off with this because some features, they require sometimes more time than expected. It happens more often than it's like everywhere or other developers, but you need to invest more time. And sometimes you develop the thing to a point where you say, yeah, possibly we can use it, and then the testing comes internal and they say, no, this will not work. So we stop at these. We have invested a few weeks, but we need to skip this and go to the. So if this would have been a feature we announced, we would need to say, yeah, sorry guys, we cannot do this right now, and possibly, as I'm quite long into this community management, this making people upset. So because they say, basically like now you did not do the logistics stuff, well, you did the CPU stuff, why? And of course this is creating discussions, but as most players cannot look behind the scenes, of course, we cannot always say, yeah, guys, sorry, but we had to move this further into the future, or do an entirely different development path, and this needs rework all the stuff we already did. And so
if a roadmap as such, because a roadmap can be many things. A roadmap can be a very specific timeline that's quite rigid, or it can be just literally a to-do list. You know, we're going to work on this to this release. Instead of using dates, you just put release numbers in there or something like that. But do you think it would be, because I think the community might quite enjoy even if it's just a very basic list of the stuff that you are actually going to be working on, because there are some things I think from that survey that I'm going to guess you've probably crossed off, not because they're done, but because they're not achievable or not priority, or not something you want to do. Perhaps.
Yeah. Perhaps I do not see anything at the moment. As I looked into it, most of the points seem to be workable. So possibly even this was walk in the moving ship with this.
I was about to say walking around in a moving ship. Yeah.
So this is, yes, you did not hear from it from a while. This is one case where a lot of work research has been put in already, but it turns out it's not that easy to achieve. So this has to do a lot, and I hope I do not say something technically wrong now, so don't quote me on that. But it's a lot about how colliders work in the game. So for this feature to work, it would be required to rework the colliders. So we are researching into this collider work for different reasons, also for lag shots and performance and different other reasons. So but turns out there's no easy way to go there. There's only a very hard way possibly, and it's not sure if this really works out. So but possibly if this pays off, so we find a way to make this, then basically this walk in a moving ship is only a side product from this bigger rework. So this is one of the features I spoke about earlier. Seems quite easy because you can say, yeah, why not allow players Mac boots or so? But this is the same direction. So it creates a lot of side projects that become increasingly bigger. And then you look at the feature, which seems to be quite easy or low-hanging fruit even, but it isn't technical. So we have this still on the list. So everything which is on this survey or so, also we do not talk about it or announce it or so. I often talk about it in the forums when we get asked. So but it's not on the priority list at the moment because there is no reliable way to make it work at the moment. It's not forgotten. It's not off the list.
Walking around on a moving ship, it implies that you've got a lot of time to spend in space. Generally, when I'm out in space, I'm warping somewhere, and the longest time I spend idle is going from warp in to atmosphere or to a waypoint 10, 15 kilometers away. You know, in that time, I don't really know much what I could do. If I was able to get up and walk around, I might go and pick the garden if my ship had a garden. Look out a window, go and arbitrarily use the toilet deco for giggles. But yeah, there's not a huge amount to really do if you're walking around on a moving ship at the moment. So it would make sense to me that other features or content was added to the game first of all, in that, you know, there's more to do in space, more time traveling in space, where it would actually be of a significant benefit to be able to then walk around on a moving ship. But at the moment, like you say, I don't really see it as a huge priority.
Yeah, that's the other question. If it's a high priority, of course we see it mentioned once in a while, and I think it's also often referred to being a multiplayer feature. Yeah, we are aware of this, and as I said, it's not dropped from the list, but even it's the demand from the multiplayer community may basically be high. Sorry, we're currently, this is not on the high priority list because it needs a technical basis, this which is quite different to what we have currently.
Okay. Those are all the questions that I had prepared. So brace yourself, because I'm moving over to Discord. Okay, so first of all, thank you to everybody out there watching the stream who submitted questions on Discord. Some of them may have already been answered, so I'll try and go through them all. But if they've already been answered, then, for example, there's one here from Pocola. Is there plans to have more than one solar system? We've already answered that. Yeah. Yes. Alpha 11 is looking like that's going to be when. But let's start at the top. So one of the guys from the XPA clan, several questions actually. So Red Alert 007, I think because we've been on CPU already, some of this has already been answered, but he says, what are the current planned changes to CPU? What will the default values be for the CPU limits? Well, the changes of the tier system, I suppose. The values, I mean, there's how many devices? So there, on the official Discord, there is quite a good little chart, I think, that Talon posted somewhere.
Yeah.
Which gives all the CPU values of each tier of each vessel.
Basically, you have the basic value, and then you double it with each tier.
With each tier,
this is basically the very basic of exact numbers. Yeah, we will go to experimental with similar these numbers currently in the game, and the numbers itself, I'm quite sure they will see some adjustment because this is the purpose of experimental on this.
Yeah. So the numbers are different to get into. So he goes on to say, how do you address concerns from the multiplayer community that CPU in comparison to size class is counterintuitive to reduce lag due to the fact that triangles, weapon projectiles being rendered, not devices, is the biggest contributor to client server lag in both PvE and PvP. So again, I think we sort of brushed on that because ultimately the purpose of CPU is more specialization than performance.
Yes, exactly. This has nothing to do with each other, basically. The size class will stay the performance indicator and the CPU will be the specialization grade.
Right. And it's still obviously possible for servers to dictate at what tier the max CPU is.
Yes, this is planned that you can say, on my server, I will have only tier 2. And maybe in the future, this is not tracked down, but we could consider it making it a paired play field. I think a lot of people would be happy that you can say, you have a combat zone where you have all your tier 3 ships or tier 4, and then you have
or vice versa,
protection area where you only can go with a shuttle, the tier 0. So I think this would be beneficial for multiplayer.
Yeah, okay. And then obviously in the server they can just decide to just not turn CPU on at all. So he goes on to say, has Elion as a development team considered appointing focus groups of subject matter experts to provide feedback directly to you on matters of PvP, PvE, exploration, and so on, as other game studios such as CCP Games have done successfully? I must admit, I don't fully understand that question.
I think what you, but you're playing an alpha version. You are the expert, and we're going to great length to capture all the feedback and all the informations you give to us, and that's what an alpha is about. If you have participated on a closed alpha or an alpha from those called AAA games, you really see broken stuff. This is nothing compared to our alpha, which is more tailored to that you can actually play something. So, but said that, it is, and as I said earlier, it's very important to us that you voice your concerns in the forum in a organized and, as you can, polite way, because as I said, I understand it if someone rages about change which changes the way the game works for him. But please try to stay focused on the feedback and not enrage the forum. It's really helpful if I can when I can analyze the thread's feedback and do not need to scroll through 20 posts I need to hide first because they are reported as abusive. So this would help us to make more out of the feedback.
Yep. No, I completely agree with that. I've lost my thing. Sorry, hang on. All over the shop. Yeah, no, everybody's got to remember, I think, that it's an early access game. It's alpha. Yes, okay, you could argue it's been alpha for ages. Blah, 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 blah. But you guys don't have a publisher.
No.
You don't have a large-scale investor.
No.
You know, a lot of the AAA games, they're obviously funded by these publishers and investors, which means that they don't necessarily have, the developers themselves don't necessarily have control over what they're developing. Elion is completely independent.
We can say if our Alpha 11 is ready for January, we'll release it then. Or if it's ready for March, we'll release it then. There's no producer or so you needed to release it ahead of Christmas, whether it works or not. So I've experienced this in the past for other community jobs, and it might be more difficult about the financing if you do it all your own, but it works for us, and we using the creative freedom we have to work with the community on this game, and this is what's all about.
Yeah. This doesn't change the fact that there's a lot of passion out there for the game, which is nothing but a good thing. So still from Red Alert here. So how do you address ship size of class 2 despite being well beneath the Elion default size class of 6, can have CPU in the tens of millions yet have effectively zero negative impact on servability and client performance? So I think this is follow on from his previous question about performance. Also, the CPU numbers in the version that you would have been playing with would be mental. Not the right numbers. So I kind of think that that's a bit of a null question.
But basically all the numbers who are around at the moment are quite outdated. If you look at the latest closed alpha build, they changed slightly. Some got a bit more expensive, some got cheaper. And where we are going finally with is its basic task for the experimental, and of course also for the public version for those that decide to play with CPU enabled and still give us feedback of this, because that's where a lot of people are playing hands-on with CPU then, and we wait for a lot of feedback on this, and we will fine-tune the numbers as we have done it with lesson volume, and we'll do it for CPU points, and we'll do it for any other feature. Feedback really matters.
Yeah. Pretty dependent on you guys, basically, to test it. You're all testers. You're all now employed by Elion. Your salary is the pleasure of being employed by Elion. I don't know, right. Have you considered the impact your proposed CPU limitations have on the creative freedom within Empyrean, especially considering that well over 90% of the workshop blueprints will be broken due to non-compliant with that a lot have called a stupidly low default CPU cap. So again, we kind of sort of brushed on that. You can turn CPU off, we all know that, and the tier system and the what was it called, the efficiency system should mean that nothing really should be broken.
basically not. You can use, so it's not a safe game break. So while we are working on the CPU points, we were at a point where it would have been easy to say we change it in a way that that's easy to do, but this would have meant that each item out there would have been broken. This is not the way we are working. Everyone should know this. So we're taking efforts that if you look at the workshop after 10.6, you're made aware what is for what. So as I said, we will have a selection for the tier level. You will see the efficiency grade. So even if you do not use CPU and stuff, you can get accustomed to it already. So there is, even if you use a workshop item in the CPU games, as I said, basically it will be slow as hell, but it does not work. So you have we will see a few constraints, and maybe you will want to refit your ships and stuff. But
I think that's the main thing that we're going to need to sort of communicate, really, isn't it? Is that you're going to have to refit your ships.
Yes.
And probably the ones that you want to still function on the workshop, you have to update and re-upload.
Basically, it doesn't work any other way, because if we add a change to the game, we could only say, hey, we do not add any change to the game. We call it a day and say this game is finished, and maybe what's next? But this is nonsense. Of course, if we add new features that are like a CPU system, forcing the players or making the players a bit think about how they build stuff. This is, of course, entirely different to before, where when you did not even play with mass and volume enabled, you basically did not have to think what you put on your ship. So if you want to take this challenge of mass and volume and CPU points, of course you have to rethink your stuff, because it's obvious that the ships you built back then might probably not fit into the new system. So there is literally no way we could avoid this entirely. We have the tier system, which is give you a bit more space. We have the efficiency system, which is quite grateful. As I said before, if you're 10 times over the max limit, you're only 50% down. So you're still able to use this. So there's nothing that will not work. But there's, of course, a point where you need to adopt, or if you want, you can adopt this new system. And I think the builds we see will change a bit in the workshop, and builders that are active in the workshop will will change their builds quite when they think the CPU system is ready for them to change. Until then, they even do not need to change, because as we said several times today already, the CPU system will be default off in Sandbox.
Well, ultimately, it's still dependent on the feedback of the community anyway. So
yes. So no Armageddon on 10.6, no workshop items will be destroyed. So will be at least maybe the earliest time this system could change to default on is when we and the community see that, it's good as it is, the values fit, and the progression is good, and everyone had touched on this, and then we might consider it to change, not earlier, same as mass volume.
Good. Okay. Happy with that. Right. Ascali says, can they specify the limits of the new tier cores? We've already gone through that a bit. But I mean, all this information and like raw data like that is going to be, it will be in the patch notes when it comes out to experimental.
Possibly I will make an update to the forums tomorrow when we fixed our internal build with a bit more explanation what we talked about today, with a few schematics, detailing a few things that Taylin already posted. So maybe this is where you should look for it. So maybe tomorrow, maybe on Sunday. I'm not sure when time allows, but we will not leave you guessing how all this works.
He does ask. He does go on to ask if there is an example of a tier 4 ship, a ship that meets the tier 4 requirements. He's asking for an example build. Are there any that you've seen that exist in the workshop already that sort of fit in that genre? Because I figured like things like the short hauler starter ship will fit within tier 4 no problem. But is there one that you've got an example that meets it at the top end?
Currently, I cannot pull something on my head which could be an example. I know that some of our prefab ships match the tier requirements already, although this is a different topic, because with the prefabs or this, you can download from the in-game library, which is delivered with the game, these ships and base. They're quite outdated, and we will completely rework. So they should then fit to the CPU tiers and also take into account the different tiers. But what I also aim to do is maybe look out for the forums when the experimental airs and is released. I plan to do some posts on the forum where we will ask everyone to get hands on the CPU points and say, what are you able to build with tier 0 or with tier 4? Yeah. And because we will use these examples to analyze what currently is possible. We did this before. We downloaded a lot of workshop items, and we got sent workshop ships and bases, and we also got it from the community and analyzed them. We will continue to do this, and I will do this in the forums, as I said, so everyone can take part and say, hey, this works, and I have built that, and this is possible with tier 3 on. I've built a destroyer, it does not work, and so on. This will be part of the experiment.
Okay. Tier 3, yeah. There we go. 1,600,000 CPU, top the tier 4 CPU. Yeah, 1.6 million CPU for tier 4.
As it stands at the moment, this evening.
Struggling to see, because I can't spawn anything in on the current closed alpha. It's difficult to see.
What features Max said, do the CPU extensions need to be placed continuously like the container extensions, or can they be placed remotely? Yeah, possibly. We have not finally decided on that, to be honest. Currently, the idea is that you at least need to place the tiers next to each other, though you place the tier 3 extenders touching each other. But I think we will not go the way that you need to place every extender next to each other, because this also would not really make sense, because you do not need to have tier 2 completed to run a completed tier 3. You can basically only set up the tier 3 expanders, and this would then not work because you do not need a lower tier. So basically this is a maybe, but only for the same tier extension.
My STO3 has a CPU of 25. Win! Oh dear. Broke. Bit broke. Yeah. A bit broke. Oh dear. Okay, sorry.
Yes, he loaded up and didn't work.
I'm back into 10.6 again, yeah. So, DNX, why did you take away HV to docking to SVs?
Yeah, okay. I said this, we will re-add this.
It's coming back, so don't worry about it. Can we get basic rocket and minigun turrets for SVs?
Sorry, turrets?
Yep.
Turrets on SVs, no, for the moment. We consider this always a bit with having manual turrets, but currently no. Basically designed at the moment. May change in the future, but currently
Is there a reason?
it's a design change. So we will the small vessels are more thought as small fighters and more like a fighter class. Also, we do not go with classes. It should not be resemble the little capital vessel. So we try to differentiate a bit. But as I said, maybe we will add kind of manual turrets. So when you are underway with the group, you can sit in the turret and shoot. But this is not decided. Currently, it's not planned to add turrets to SV.
Okay. That's fine. It's a shame. I would like turrets on SVs. Even just 2. One on the top, one on the bottom. Just to keep those pesky drones off when you're raiding a POI. But I guess you just take a HV. Unless you're me, in this case you just park your nightshade outside and let it get blown up by drones while you're busy inside. Anyway. Are there any plans to add an NPC human faction as part of the main storyline when the player unlocks the final solo mission?
Yes. We already have kind of. The player is basically in the human NPC faction, but we aim to add this as a real faction. So as the story goes, for those that already were available, the totally overpowered mission and so on, we indicate at the end that the player is trying to make contact with the lost.
The UCH, yeah.
Yes. We say so. This will become a faction. Maybe you are automatically part of it, not like the Syrax you can combat or the Polaris you can befriend with, but we plan to add more factions in the future. So we will not stick to only 2 or so.
That would be good because I suppose. Yeah, hang on. Words.
You have any pirates?
Words. Come back to me. Words. Come back to me. Language. I presume the UCH faction would be what it's called, or would it just be human? Would then structures of that faction appear much like the Xerax and Polaris ones do at the moment, with their own tags and stuff? Yes. Yeah. Cool. Where did I get to? Escali again, as a builder, still trying to get good. He's not trying to get a good balance between mass thrusters RCS for SVs. And have been struggling. Bigger thrusters have more mass that affects RCS and can be very tricky to get right. And SV's handling maneuverability is important. Now with thruster changes, you're increasing their mass. Are the values of RCS going to change to compensate? With CPU now as well, it could potentially be even trickier and even more frustrating.
Possibly, yeah, not really. The RCS features depends on which vessel you speak of.
I think everything's blown out of the water when it comes to this now, isn't it? Because you've changed the thrusters, power and weight, but you've also pretty much removed the need for RCSs on anything other than very specifically designed type ships or larger ones.
Yeah.
From what I've experienced so far.
The RCS will become a bit less important, I think. They're currently a very central device, because without a RCS you can only go up and down, and you cannot roll or so. And this will entirely change. Though the question is more, do you need an RCS, and or can you do it with depending on what you expect from your vessel. You can do exactly, yes, you can do it with this thruster.
Yeah, because I mean the ships that I've been tinkering around with, I wish I could spawn them in, but the thruster placement, I've tried both. I've tried thrusters that are spread out quite far, and that thing rolls and it up and down, and that doesn't have an RCS. I've put thrusters quite close together in the center, and yeah, you can go up and down, left and right, but the roll is really slow. Yes. Really, really slow on the roll. So that's specifically what RCSs are going to be used for, is that Q and E action on the old keyboard there. So I think it's difficult to answer your question, Escali, because
let's maybe for this question, let's wait and see how when the players, or when who's questioned this, that who played the same problem with the words tonight. When the experimental is ready and you play with it and you get a feeling for it, and maybe some questions are that may come to the channel or to the, maybe self-explanatory when the experiment.
I think it's on. What is your design philosophy for SVs, and does that match how the players builders see them? Well,
yeah. As I said, basically what we do not see is the small vessels as small capital vessels. So we always thought the SV is more like I think someone wrote it to the chat already, or at the moment, more an attack craft.
yeah.
Not a utility vessel. The HV is more about tanks and so on, and the SV is more like your fighter craft, your base fighter, and you can build a little CV from it with a few. You can build pretty large SVs, but currently the design philosophy behind this SV is not to have it as an CV, but just smaller. That's not, and that's already also the reason why the SV does not have certain features that CV has. So we want to differentiate a bit. So it's not the CPU points, but it's more like these HV, SV, CV base, these primary types differentiate in their possibilities a bit and not all the same.
Yeah, because I'd more say SVs were your explorers, your early explorers, your
Scouts.
early POI sort of busters, kind of your nightshades of your couple of GATs and a couple of rocket launchers, and it can take down drones and some basic POIs and stuff. And then it moves on to then some slightly more heavy kind of duty stuff with shields and plasma cannons and stuff like that. But ultimately, I suppose the ultimate goal of an SV is as a bomber, really, because you wouldn't.
Yeah. That's I was about to say when we take on this topic with new weapons or so. I think bombs and so are quite high on the list. And back in Alpha 7, 8, 9, don't know. We added these bomber drones.
The bomber drones, yeah.
And I think this will be then only available for an SV. So we do not add bombs to CV, for example.
Bombs. And can we have, while you're at it, I like to just lay it on and just say, while you're at it. If you give us bombs, can you update the HUD so that you give a little targeting reticule for where the bombs actually drop?
We need to find our way if this is possible and don't know. Sorry.
Yeah, and if you need me to do some voiceover work, that's absolutely fine because I'm quite happy to just be like in the background going, "Bombs away, old boy."
Okay, I keep this in mind. Okay.
Keep that in mind. Yeah. You got my number. Right.
Yeah. Nuke from the orbit.
Nuke from orbit. That's the only way to be sure.
Yeah.
Will there eventually be an animated warp sequence when warping? Sorry, this is not part of a new general alpha patch, but I just thought about it the other day. That's from Stubert. So we recently changed from the white screen to this loading screen. In all honesty, I prefer the white screen though, to be honest, Hamill.
Yeah, it wakes you up when it's dark around and you're a bit asleep, and then you get the white screen and you're awake right in the.
He's like, I'm warping. I'm going faster than light, and light is blinding me right now. So it makes sense. But the loading screen is kind of like, oh, I'm in a game.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Is that staying, or are we looking to change that?
So I think for the time, I think this will not change at the moment. Problem is, if maybe you can make this as a test when you load up the game or you have the FPS counter enabled. You notice that this FPS curve is stuck sometimes. So it runs and it's holding and it's going slower and faster. And this is the problem because we do not have animated transfer screens because these would lag as well. So currently the only way is to have a nice loading speed. I'm afraid. If this can be changed, we will of course change it. But how the game processes or loads into another playfield is currently the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's there's some great ideas about what you could do as a transition screen, but yeah,
Yes.
if it's yeah. I suppose we could live with the loading screen for now. But if you accidentally leave it out of a build and take us back to the white screen, nobody's going to complain. Okay. Here are the plans to add more than one solar system. We've answered that. Johnny J. Appleseed says, Dear Elion, it's very formal. Why are you working on CPU when the last major feature that you introduced, logistics, is still not completed? I think we've covered that. It will be sorted. It's going to be an alpha 10.7. Hummel said it. 10.7, yeah? Fixed logistics, all of it. And sorting.
I don't want to make a promise on that, but
Too late.
It's if we fix this, it's very high up on.
Okay, good. That's good. Godslayer says, why there is no sorting out button in blueprints? For example, unlock level tier so we can organize list of blueprints and know.
I've already taken a note to suggest that.
Yeah.
So feedback. Check.
Nainu. I think Elion team is doing their best at making a great game and working on the issues that come up. My question, though, is does the team feel CPU fixes the lag issues in the multiplayer game in a productive way? I see lots of comments on the web about needing to optimize the game. Not working in the field myself, I wonder, is this a legitimate argument? And if so, what are their plans on optimizing the game? And so that perhaps the CPU limit can become more lax?
The CPU limit is not about lags, not about performance at all, and you might see little bit of performance gain, as I said, due to the fact that you might play fewer blocks, but not necessarily, as you can go up to tier 4 and you have ships with quite a lot of blocks away. So optimization, we did optimization for 10.5 and I think it worked quite well. And for 10.6, the two of our developers work on even better. But this is something, as I said earlier today, it did not work out, and it has been dropped from the 10.6 list because it improved the performance, but it created lag. So we were back to the drawing board.
It improved performance, but it made performance worse.
The performance would be better, but yes.
Yeah.
If you enjoy lagging through the playfield, then we can talk about it.
I love a good rubber banding. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Always good rubber banding.
Good rubber banding.
What I want to say, yes, of course, we are always working on improving the optimization, and especially in the latest versions, this is getting a bigger focus. And but there are things we can do, and some things do not work out. And maybe delay to later stage, but yes, we also do care about.
Okay, good. The legacy writes, instead of using the CPU system as a means to limit ship sizes, have you considered reworking the size class system as the size limiter and using the new CPU system as a way to eliminate hard block limits on turrets, certain modules, providing the builders new creative opportunities. Providing the builder with new creative opportunities within a balanced framework. I love the balanced framework bit at the end there.
I think there's a lot of confusion about size class and CPU. Maybe the first Q&A we did, there was a slight misconception. So CPU point is not about performance. Underline, underscore, exclamation mark.
Bold.
Bold, exactly.
Put it on an LCD projector and make it size 500.
Sorry?
Put it on an LCD projector and make it size 500. CPU is not performance. Sorry, little Imperion joke there. Did you know? Okay. Moving on.
Okay. So to clear this up, so the size class is, of course, the indicator for performance because it includes the amount of blocks, and the amount of lights and the amount of triangles of the block shape. So you can basically see your size class raising when you build very detailed surface with a lot of tubes and maybe edges and corners and so. This increases your size class before it costs more performance. The CPU points do nothing.
Yep. You're going to be repeating yourself on that one, I think, a few times.
Yeah, I think we will repeating over and over for the next 2 weeks at least.
Yep. Nexus ABS says, I'm sure there is an internal roadmap that Elion are following. Nope. But can you share a list of the priority features that you want to implement that will give Imperial Galactic Survival its signature feel? What are the core features still to develop? I'm not asking for ETAs or promises, just what the current plan features are.
Yeah, of course we have some kind of internal roadmap, but yeah, to share this publicly, as I said it half an hour ago, it has a lot of downside. So, but as Spanj put it already, so this feature survey, it's more like a to-do list, and because the questions are which main feature. So maybe you can break it down. What is missing is the solar system, multi-solar system. I think this is one of the major features which still missing in the game. Maybe it's not a major feature, but all this around crew and stuff, and is also something that's often requested. Maybe not a major feature, but very interesting gameplay. And what is of course missing is the long-promised tech tree rework and a skill tree. So we are going away from picking plants for growing up in your tech tree. We will want to shift it more towards a real research element, and maybe keeping the XP more for a skill tree, like you're going better in whatever, wielding weapons,
traits and talents.
Traits, yes.
Yeah.
So we've already tracked down, or every noted down a few skills and traits and what could work with these. So, and these are, I think, the skill tree tech tree reworks. Besides the solar system, maybe the second large change that is still missing, but it will, it's already planned. Not for Alpha 11, I think, but yeah, soon.
That's pretty good. I'm quite excited about crew skills and the research stuff changes. That'll be awesome. Okay, so Philip Wombat says, also a great name, don't you think that giving us more config files would be better than letting us play with unbalanced configurations for months or even years? So
you can balance already a lot. At least for
yeah, I was going to say the config ECF is fairly extensive.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so extensive that I dare not even look at it.
So basically, we've as we added the base attacks, we exposed a new configuration for how the base attack parameters can be calculated. So yes, we already doing this what you request. We're giving options, be it in the game options menu or in the custom game menu or in the customization folder. So those that want to tailor the experience even more can do it. So yes, I think if we add something in the future that requires a new config, we will expose these. So it's always already planned to expose something like the loot tables or so. This will come sooner or later.
Yeah. That makes sense. How is actual hover height determined, since the hover height listed in the HUD does not necessarily equal the actual hover height, especially when the weight to volume is on? Did you get that?
Yeah, partially.
Okay.
The hover height, I'm not sure. Maybe this sounds more like a bug, and not really like.
Yeah, I'd say that's more of a bug.
Maybe
yeah, no, it's intentional that the hover height is misleading. No, it sounds like a bug.
There may be two situations. So first, if you think about this green hover engine, the
little
ground repulsor,
yeah,
they do not hover up to 3 meters, and we have increased this. to make the HVS docking a bit more convenient. I think it's 2 meters or 2.2. Before it was 1.5. And of course, what can happen is, although it's possibly a bug, that you cannot lift to the, if you are too heavy, your vessel too heavy, you possibly might that you cannot lift up to 3 meters. But basically, I suspect there's, if you say you cannot hover up to it, consider reporting it as a bug because it sounds like it.
Yep, that doesn't sound like it's working quite right. Blade asks, why is it that firing a rocket from an SV yields no XP? I assume he means firing.
Yes. I know what you. If you're sitting in a vessel, you get no experience when you. Okay, I know. This is the explosion damage, which gives no experience. It's not the impact or the killing,
Right.
It's the explosion effect.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the reason for this is. Possibly acid. Yeah, maybe. I cannot say if this intentionally, but I can think that if you kill someone or some NPC with an explosion, it could be anyone else with an explosion because the explosion isn't affected, propagates through a few blocks, and possibly this cannot be attributed. I will ask back on the team, but I think this might be down the line.
Okay.
So it's more maybe it's a technical.
Maybe something to do with the colliders and stuff, like figuring out from the splash damage what actually it's damaged, if anything. Turrets don't give it XP, no, because the turrets are doing all the work, not you, I suppose.
What should give experience if you sit in the gunner seat?
Yeah.
If you kill someone or something not with the explosion, then it should give XP. If this does not, then it's probably also bug. This has been different in Alpha 6. I'm not sure when we changed this, but if you kill some.
Yeah, Tone Master just confirmed if you use the turret directly, it does give XP. So, okay. But automatic turrets shouldn't, in my opinion, shouldn't give XP because they're doing the shooting.
So if you let the AI do the work, of course you get.
Yeah. Jupiter Vessel Corp, part of the Red Dwarf faction, no doubt. Will they increase RCS and thruster output on SV due to the CPU limit and the thruster being unbalanced, requiring lots of small jet thrusters, resulting in high CPU and a constant battle of increase? He hasn't put any punctuation in this sentence, so I'm just going to add my own. And a constant battle of increased size and mass of an SV to fit enough thrusters on it without it looking stupid and still have the necessary speed. But then it shoots CPU way too high. I think basically what he's getting onto here is
it's about jet thrusters.
About the jet thrusters. I mean, you've done some rework on the jet thrusters already, and I suspect he's posted this before you posted your.
I think so. Maybe he should go to the forum in the general section. I've put up Alpha 10 thruster rebalancing, and especially the jet. Yes, he's right, or he was right.
Yeah.
The jet thrusters get less efficient. When they grew in size, so they're losing basically thrust. I've turned this around, so no, it's a real progression, and some of those have gained quite 10 times the thrust now, but they are a bit more costly than also in terms of CPU points. So
yeah,
it's a bit of trade-off, but it's a consequence.
Okay, let's try and speed this up a little bit because I think we're getting right. When we add obstruct thruster mechanics.
We're having one version in game, but everyone is not really happy with it. And it has a few side effects, and we need to invest more time into this feature because currently it's like you put a thruster and you need a clear path up to the bounding box.
Yeah.
And some ships like your super lifter or the heavy lifter have opposing thrusters.
Yep.
So basically they're not covered, but this would not work. And these are examples where we said, yeah, we need to probably redo this or fine-grain it. So there need to be more checks if the thruster is really obstructed to a certain distance, maybe 2 or 3 times length or so, as an example, in any direction, or if there are other methods. So currently, it's not planned to activate this by default, or it also has no ETA for a rework.
Okay.
But basically, at one point, yes, I think this will be an option. I'm not sure if default or not. Depends on the output.
Yeah. Okay. So don't worry about it for now, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a little bit more complicated than we first thought, maybe.
If you want not to need to rebuild your stuff in the future, maybe you build with this in mind. For capsule vessel and so on, for the stuff we add as a POI or so, as a AI capsule vessel, we require to have these thrusters posed, so players can work with it. So we cannot have stuff that has included thrusters.
Yeah. And I assume that feature, when it does come along, will have the option to be turned off as well.
I'm pretty sure about that.
Yeah, because obviously you've got a ton of workshop builds and even prefabs that have buried thrusters. So
sometimes it's if you role play or you build a ship of a certain sci-fi movie or so, you are trying to hide stuff which is not really in the game, and then in this case, or for these cases as well, so it's important that we have quite a few settings that if you decide you're building a Star Wars or Star Trek or whatever server, or Expanse server or whatever, you can do this, and this is basically also a goal that we give this option.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Thoughts on allowing custom textures in game?
A bit problematic. Yeah, we've seen this in other games. Currently not. I don't.
What if you had a submission system like the workshop that was monitored, policed in some way?
Probably this might be a topic for the modding API and modability or so. So if we say we can have mods down to the level of texture possibly, because then we do not distribute it. The problem is basically legal problems and other stuff. So if you have something in the game, you can run into troubles. And there's a lot of stuff you basically also do not want to have into the game as well. So some maturity stuff,
That's fair enough.
It's the internet. But we considered this already, but currently it's not a topic.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? Colt Browning goes on. He says, "Are there any core game mechanics and features left to build? Can you talk a bit about them?" He says, "Thruster damage was mentioned in the last Q&A, but we've sort of talked about that. How will vehicles move about inside of a hangar without causing damage to structure, i.e., track systems?"
No, not really. But the thruster damage. Yeah, we consider this as that you have area of effect we can damage. By pointing a thruster at wall, you can damage it. But I think we do not follow this rule.
So if there was an SV inside a hangar,
you will not damage.
You will not damage. You will only damage blocks of the same build if the thrusters were obscured by the build.
If you decide to use damage, yes.
Yeah. Okay. What are your plans for proper multi-crew gameplay? Comms officer, tactical, chief engineer, co-pilot? I suppose this is talking about NPC stuff. Which kind of brushed on a little bit.
NPC crew, it's always NPC crews, so we need to find a good way to make use of them. We already have added this block you can basically hire by your
by
crew
the
and
NPC.
Yes, but you have not any profit from it. Maybe.
I always thought that they would increase the sort of stats and properties of the vessel or base that they're installed into.
Yeah. We have not yet decided how to proceed in that route. Possibly you could have, let's say, if we had a feature like reloading, basically. So you reload at a certain, without a crew, and then you get a whatever loading
a tactical
mask,
officer or something like that.
then
you
your
get
turrets load faster.
yeah,
This is
or
possible
turn
to
rate.
actually- Yes.
Yeah, things like that. But you got NPCs like the dancing girls and stuff like that. The dancing
Yeah.
aliens. What would they contribute? Plus 2 morale.
Yes, basically.
That'd be
Yeah.
quite cool. No, I always think, because if you think about it, you can tie your NPCs, your crew, into the CPU system as well. So you could say it's another way of increasing your CPU. Obviously, technically, that might be quite difficult to do, but if you had
Yeah.
crew members that increase turret turn or reload speed or thruster efficiency or generator output, just throwing examples out, you could have one that increases your CPU
Possibly,
limit.
as I said before, when you asked me, or when I was asked where do we want to go with the CPU system, anything could be possible. For now, it's a tier system. We have devices that cost CPU, and we have a few devices that set the stage or the level of the CPU.
Yeah.
It's not entirely unthinkable that what is also suggested in the forums, that you have crew also slightly increase or adding a few more points to this. Possibly. I'm really cannot say anything about this. The whole topic about crews or NPC crews is not really explored. We have a few ideas how this could be work, but as always, there are a few sides though. You need to balance the NPCs. Do you need to pay them a salary? Do they consume oxygen? Do they need a bed? Will they wake up and spawn at the station? There are
baby steps. Humble. It's just they're just motionless. They work 24/7. You don't pay them anything.
So for the first iteration, it might be this. So you place the station with the NPC like you have it at the moment, and you can benefit or
See, a simple way you could do it is that you place your NPC and they give whatever stats benefit to the ship or whatever, and then your deco blocks, like your beds, your showers, your kitchens, and things like that, they increase in turn the effectiveness of your NPCs.
Like Styx said in the Twitch chat, like Avorion, yes, Avorion is doing a good job on this whole NPC. They are a bit more centered around this.
Yeah.
And yes, we have, independent from Avorion, we came to the same conclusions. Basically, there are a few methods you can use NPC crews. You basically require the vessel or the structure you place them that you need to have certain slots for them. Like you said, maybe you have to place a bed, and then you can use a CPU crew member. NPC crew member. Sorry.
Yeah.
And something down. It's quite obvious in which direction this as a feature will go, but we have not really explored this.
Yeah. Okay.
So it might be,
a little ways off yet. Any plans to add more melee weapons?
We don't really have melee weapons.
Lightsabers.
But basically, if we find the time to work on the player controller to add these animations, so melee weapons are, I think, some of the most more difficult to add animations.
Yeah.
I don't know at the moment if our player controller already offers melee, but melee combat is most of the sword fighting games struggle with it. I know only a few who doing this really good in first person. So it's thought that maybe we have also grenades and stuff in the same matter when we work at this. So maybe make few people happy.
I think it would, but I do think that it's a low priority thing, isn't it? It's kind of it's kind of up there with sort of adding more guns and stuff like that. The base mechanics and features need to be in first, but I mean, even the mild sort of prospect of having lightsabers or chainswords in the game at some point, I think will make lots of people's feet tingle with excitement.
Okay.
Mine included lightsabers. Yes.
Yeah, I really the game. Yes, the chainsaw is basically kind of a melee weapon, but it's static.
Yeah, it's static. But I suppose
This
you could
weapon-
quite easily then add other static, I don't know what they would be, other static melee weapons
But
in.
for lightsabers, you need to
You
wave
need to
them
wield, yeah.
and taunt and stuff. You cannot go with.
But you
the
could
static.
introduce the, I can't remember what it's called, the pneumatic. Do you ever play Unreal Tournament? The original? What was that thing called? The little melee, the pneumatic thing, the pneumatic ram that you could turn people inside out with. Anyway, get sidetracked. Or the gauntlet from Halo. We'll have that.
Yeah.
There's no copyright issues with that. Next question: grenades? Question mark.
Yeah,
Yep.
possibly. If we, it's also a question from the player. Yes, it's animation question. Basically, it's the same as it is for crouching and so.
Yeah.
If we take on this, I'm pretty sure we will take into account all these things that evolve around this pretty this certain.
Well,
player
if
controller thing.
player animations are a big pain in the backside, why don't you just use a grenade launcher, and then it's just a gun?
Okay, this would be yes. Yeah, we could basically do a grenade launcher already. You simply have to define the drop off in atmosphere quite high, so it lobs around the from the. But what you cannot have at the moment, and this has nothing to do, I think, with the player controller, is that something bounces off the surface
Gravity.
and then explodes. Yes.
What happens if you use it in space? Does it just go straight?
Exactly.
Yeah, that sort of thing. Well, that's what it would.
Have
There's no gravity.
An on-impact grenade launch, but this would be the same as a rocket launcher, but with different.
Yeah. Basically, a bit of technical challenge, but yeah, grenades, please, one day. And flamethrowers as well while you're at it.
Yes, it's the most requested weapon, I think. Flamethrowers.
It's those goddamn scorpions. You just want to flame them.
It's really in every thread I post. On the first page, it's flamethrowers.
That's it. It's a meme now.
Yeah.
It's a meme every time Hummel says anything. Flamethrowers is the response. Are there any plans for realistic water and partially underwater bases where we can pump out water and so on? I suppose there's an add-on question to that is, are we going to get base devices that can get water instead of these placeable water generators that are just really annoying?
Yeah. Basically for having water generators for base, I think this is basically a matter of adding a model and adding this to. So yeah, it's not has no ATA, but yes, there's no big problem. Depends on a bit on our priorities.
Yeah. And realistic water?
Yes, this is a topic we talked about not long ago, I think. And currently, as you all know, our water is like a bit. It's a texture. It's a layer and an effect below this layer. And having this as a real fluid water, I think this is quite of a challenge. I think it's more realistic that we get a feature that the water is expanding when you dig the ground. This is maybe one first implementation. If this will really become fluid water, like you can have a lake on a higher level and then it flows in a river down shore, I'm not so sure about this. This really works. I think it will possibly be more like Minecraft does water, so it helps expanding fluid. And this is also a challenge. Currently, as water is not a fluid, it's not a block or an entity or something you can move or so. You cannot have bases that are underwater. But probably if we manage to add some kind of fluidity, this will be then more, it will become more possible. I cannot say at the moment. So we discussed this topic because it's an element of the improvement of the terrain generation and terrain itself and planets. It's not on the list for near future patch. But we are all looking forward when we are at this point Yes, of course, we will also want to build real underwater.
Okay, good.
And
So it's on the sort of
yes,
list
and
of
have
possibilities,
real
but it's
underwater life
yeah.
in the water planet. Maybe this is the second question which always comes.
Water planet with just one island,
Yes.
and on that island is a Xerax fortress.
Yeah.
Okay, so Takos follows on from that question. I'm sorry if I mispronounced the name. Will we eventually be able to move liquid from one place to another? Because he wants a swimming pool. I guess if the base is... Oh, I'm under attack. Oh, I'm going to die. Stupid bug. Win. I guess if water is a bit like Minecraft, then it may be possible to move it from one place to another. If you can craft a bucket.
Maybe.
But it's on the
Possibly.
maybe, I guess.
Yes, it's these are the questions we need to go through when we take on this topic. So
Yeah.
I cannot really say how this will turn out because I currently do not know what's technically possible and what can be done about this and to which features it relates. Because currently you also cannot dive with SW or maybe we will then need to add more or different thrusts that you can build U-boat or submarine.
Yeah.
And yeah, these are again a lot of topics that revolve around the simple question: can we have fluid water?
Yeah. Possibly one day, maybe. Who knows? Nobody knows. Not even
We
who knows.
already we already have underwater POIs.
Yeah.
You simply cannot build a base that is free of water below the water.
You can if you place it really carefully.
Yeah, if you glitch through the lower, well, you can
dig under the water level and then you place glass or whatever. Anyway.
Yes, Empyrean has very special water, but other games do not do have the same issues. I think as water fluidity is really a performance killer.
Yep.
So still, and so we might need to make a few compromises. But we will see. I cannot say anything.
Next question is any plans to streamline the process of repairing a base? Obviously, we've got repair blocks for everything else, but when a base takes heavy damage, any chance of an automated repair system for bases?
We already talked. Yes, we talked about this. It's a bit more complex than repairing a vessel because you know how the repair bay works. So you park your vessel on it, then you exit it, and we have repair shield around. So we remove not only that an exterior person is hampering your task by destroying more blocks, but also if the vessel is severely destroyed and the players inside the vessel and the blocks are rebuilt, we cannot really avoid that he's in place of the where the blocks need to be placed. So this is a bit of a problem. We have already thought about it, that not only bases but capital vessels may get the field repair capability, which is lower and takes a few more resources or more time at least. But yes, we already have this on the. We need to find a good way to work around the issues these dynamic feature poses for players being around or NPCs being around.
So basically, yes, there will be automated base repairs.
It's on the list already.
Yeah.
Quite some positive.
I'm going to sort of, in order to speed up time, because I realise how long we've been running for three and a quarter hours now. So I'm going to go through the questions in Discord that have been thumbed up, basically bumped. So I do apologise for those of you that have asked questions. I'm not going to be able to get around to all of them today. Stupid bug. Sorry. I just really don't want to die to a bug on stream.
Yes,
anyway.
It's a problem that you cannot repair blocks that you cannot see yet.
Yes. Will there be any plans to inter-base connectivity? For example, having a solar-powered furnace, being able to pull ores from another base and then storing them back to a different base.
Plans, yes. This when we added this NPC terrain or the factory territories. Sorry, we already laid the foundation of something that you can let you can transport some stuff via drones and like from one base to the other. We did not go very far because this turns out that this is a lot down to AI routines, and maybe it's similar for the base to base transfer. Of course, we might find a way to do this. Yes, it's a topic of automatization. Currently you can use logistics to connect your devices to some degree. You can throw something in at one side and you can get something out on the other side.
Yeah.
You cannot do this consistently because there's one feature missing, that you can set a constructor or deconstruct to always work on a certain production queue. This is already developed, and I hope we will see it in 10.7. So you can have an in-base automatization. So you really only have one cargo container on one side of the base. You throw something in, and on the other side you get devices as much as you can produce without taking care. You need to set up the constructor every time. For having this extended to, let's say, the delivery from ore from a digging site to your automated base, this is maybe a task that working on an AI and a few of the territory features may then bring to the table. So basically, yes, we are looking into this. It has not an ETA yet, but the full automatization is still on our list because the logistics has to be the first part of.
Yeah, because I would assume that you would all interconnect it through the Wi-Fi system. If a base is in range of another Wi-Fi, then it can access that one's logistics.
We need to look into how this because automatization between two bases then a bit a different topic than having it work in one base.
Yeah. Okay. Add an extra drop down. Will there be a limit to the number of HVs you can dock onto SV? We've already answered that. Nope. When are HV drills going to be fixed to where they actually put items in harvest boxes again? So I think this is talking about drilling of the rocks, the surface rocks. Why don't they go into harvest boxes?
Because this is a bug.
Okay. It's not intentional.
I do not think it's a bit out how you aim at the rock. Talent is still here, or Dave or Pantera. They do it because they are doing the QA and the bug testing. I think this is not really intentional. I think I have seen a bug.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, because on those really hard start planets that don't have any deposits, such as the ones on Project Eden, being able to go around in a single drill HV and just mop up rocks from the surface would have been very, very useful. But yeah. Okay, so that's going to come. Deconstructors on CVs? So that and furnaces for that matter, ever going to happen, or is it stuck to bases?
Furnaces will be kept for bases. I think deconstructors depends. I think maybe if we have a second version, we'll have the big one for the
like a less powerful version for CV.
Yeah. Maybe. Possibly.
Just keep asking for it, Semp, until they get bored of you asking for it, and then it'll happen.
Until you say, "Oh my god!"
Will player armor models get an overhaul in the near future?
Yeah, but the boosters. This is we only touch the surface with what added. Yeah, there can be done a lot more. This I think not on the priority list at the moment, but yes, there's a lot of ideas already summed up to how this could be worked. Starting from that you need to sustain a certain energy level of your suit, so the suit might get an energy level that you either it fills up over time or via batteries or so, and then you can run your booster. So there's a lot we can do about this, and we are aware about this, but not right at the moment.
Okay. Semp also asked, would it be possible to add a tooltip to the survival multi-tool while looking at a block to show the actual name of the block? So I suppose this is like the DI, the debug thing, but
Yes.
actually on the multi-tool.
I think we have it on the DI, so I think this will not go to the multi.
It's going to stay on the DI. Okay. Moving down the list. When will there be a teleporter available for CVs and for normal player accessible?
We had the teleporter in the game on the POIs. Turns out that when we added the request though for have really randomized solar system, this teleporter tag does not work because you had to set up a target, and if you do not know the target name, your teleporters do not work. Basically for CVs, I do not think in general if we add this back, CVs will not have teleport.
CVs will not have. Possible maybe for bases one day?
For bases, yes. I've quite a while ago I've worked on a concept how teleports could make work again. So like you place it on the teleporters have a certain range.
Yeah.
And you place it in your base, and you can basically maybe more like Stargate in this way. You know an address, or you have a list of targets which are in range, and if these targets belong to your faction, you can use the teleporter going there. And if not, then you are not shown that. So maybe more down this, but not decided.
It would make sense if you had teleporter on one base, and let's say you had two other bases, each with a teleporter, that when you set a target on the first base, you have some sort of drop down or selection list where you can choose the other base to go
something
to,
like this,
and vice versa.
Yeah, but this has not been decided, so it's currently not a topic, I'm afraid. But I have a list of all these feedback we are getting, forums and ideas.
I can't imagine how extensive that list is. The amount
it's about 400 items.
What? Brilliant. Yeah, not overwhelming at all. When are we going to get airtight shutter ramp block variants? So these are the ramp blocks. They don't have force fields in them because they go diagonal.
Not at the moment. Possibly maybe.
Or maybe we can have the ramps. Not the ramps. Sorry, maybe the shutter doors. Have some diagonal variants of those, rather than changing the ramps.
Yeah, possibly this will possibly then the way to go, though. Not change the current ramps to add them a force field, but maybe add diagonal ramps that have a diagonal force field.
Yep.
Yeah, it's thinkable.
Possible.
I'll set it on my list.
It's on my list.
Yeah, because currently I'm
the 400 item list. Yeah.
Yeah, models. We have modelers that are working on certain, but when they are free to work, and if I find place in the block conf to add these, it's a good maybe.
Yeah.
Because
it's a good idea.
Yes, it's a good. I have posted to the forum threads that asked for what devices need variants or other models or so. So this is basically what I'm trying to take from the forums as well. So if someone says it now in the stream, I will make a note, and then I'll add it to my ideas for what devices we can work on.
Yeah, okay, good. So add it to the forum, guys. You want a block device, that's the place to go.
These threads are there for a reason. It's not to
So Jen asks, when will we be able to walk properly in third person view, as right now it's a bit nauseating to try as you wander a bit. When will we have something to wear other than identical spacesuits, and when will our characters look to be more customizable and not so bloody ugly? Lol. I don't really use third person all that much, but
really say what the problem is, and maybe
No,
write it to the forums or describe a bit first, because currently
I think
I'm not sure.
the third person thing is kind of like, because it's anchored weirdly on the player when you're moving sort of left and right. If you play sort of other third person games and stuff, you'll tell the difference instantly between the way the camera's sort of anchored for those compared to the way it's anchored for Empyrean. I think that's probably what she's talking about. And in regards to the sort of spacesuits and character customization and stuff like that, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
We need some work on that one. But again, it's probably going to be pretty low priority.
This is also a topic of the player controller then.
Yeah.
Customization options are low on priority at the moment, to be honest. But basically, yes, of course, sooner or later we need to take on this as well.
So December, yeah. December, Jen. I'm just giving you deadlines now.
Yeah. Okay.
Has the question of space detectors been addressed yet?
Okay. Yeah. This is a quite big topic. Yes, we have concept for rework of detectors in general. So currently you only have the detector for planet, because the detectors only work in 2D.
Yep.
And for space, there's no good way to use it in the current system. So I think it will be more like you see it in other games where you have a ping signal, and then you have a few markers popping up for some time.
Perfect.
And then removing it. I think this is a viable solution, and quite.
Yeah.
So this will also work better, I think, for the planet even.
Oh, really? You use it on the planet as well?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So would it be like a certain? You'd just have like a ping, and then you'd have, I don't know, little flashes popping up on the map.
Yeah, maybe a little. We already have a system to make waypoints or markers.
Yep.
And if you detect something, it's
you just waypoint it and then go for it. Yep.
Maybe it's to be decided how this could work out, but basically, you actively shoot your scanner, and then you get an feedback on your HUD, and you see in this direction there's something there.
See, I wouldn't do it on the HUD. I'd tie it into the map. But that's me.
Map,
I mean,
this is not. Yes, a lot of games do it on the HUD.
Yeah.
Some do it. Maybe we do both. Maybe we do it. It's not decided, but we basically have an idea how this could work. So this works in space and on planets, because I think it's beneficial that you have a feature that works not different in two environments. I think this is not a so good idea. So basically, when it works for space, it should also work on a planet, and when it works for planet, it should also work in space. Currently, we cannot do this because the space detection is a bit different than on the planet, but we will come to this.
Damn those 3 dimensions, right?
Yeah. Basically.
Most
of the time.
That's yeah. Do you know roughly when is that going to happen? The space, because I mean the CV detector sort of thing is quite, like you say, it's quite a big issue. It's I don't know if you've seen the Project Eden stuff that I've been doing, but when I run the map command in orbit on one of the planets, and what Raven has done, the guy who created Project Eden, is he's basically flooded space with loads of stuff that if you wander aimlessly throughout one of these orbits, you're bound to find something just because of the sheer volume of stuff that he's put in orbit. But obviously in the vanilla game, everything is very sort of sparsely kind of populated, and you could be searching for hours and not find anything. Unlikely, but it's possible.
We're pretty much aware that this is missing. We have tried to work around a bit for the time being and decrease the visibility ranges, I think, for 10.5 already. So it's stuff is a bit more visible on a greater distance. But this will, if you're talking about the detector, it will not work like a map command. You do not reveal the whole map. I think you reveal in a certain distance, so you will not see all. So if you're on the wrong side of the planet, you might not see the stage on the other side. So you still will be. You need to be to fly around and scan once in a while.
The distance might be 10 kilometers or something like that, and
so
then
basically,
it will give you a rough bearing. Because
maybe this is also tied to a new radar system, because currently it's very static.
Yeah.
And you have set you have given distances, and you detect something or not. Though there is not something like an active radar ping. I'm not speaking of detectors. I'm really radar ping could possibly reveal the whole orbit then for a few seconds, but make you also a target for everyone else who is in the set.
I'm here.
Yes, basically you were saying I'm here, and the guys are coming for you, but you can basically get a glimpse in which direction to go. So you're a little bit penalized.
Very submarine-esque kind of.
Yes. So you cannot use this. You cannot hold your finger on the ping button and say, "Okay, I'm seeing it." And then maybe the detector is an early version from it, or maybe in between device where you when you know approximately where to go, then you can switch back to the passive detector, and but not worked out already. But maybe down the line, maybe something in this direction makes sense.
So December, yeah. Cool.
Yep.
You heard it here, folks. Okay, so since container controllers, we're down to the last two questions, by the way, that I'm going to go through. So since container controllers will suck some CPU, can we have a sort feature included on it? So this is going back to the sort feature.
Yes.
Yep. Which is
when we work on the logistics stuff.
December. Yeah. I'm just going to say everything's December now. It's going to be worked on. Yeah. The whole sort logistics and everything is high priority. And the next one is about wireless connections to water generators, which is again logistics. So that's pretty much covered off. Other than a lot of the ones, there's a lot of still questions on Discord that they weren't bumped up, but I'm just very conscious of time. It's 3.5 hours now we've been chatting, so thank you very much for talking to me this long. I'm much appreciated it.
It's been a lot of fun.
I'm glad. There's a few other questions just that have come through from people in the chat on the stream. Let's have a quick through those. CV to CV docking, we've kind of brushed on. That's possible, but it's not going to come anytime soon. Lag shot fixes. Now, the lag shot fixes, that's an interesting one, because 10.6, that, in theory, should be fixed.
In theory. We a few days ago, we had an update on how projectiles are calculated. And basically, now with this, we think that most of the lag shot locations should be fixed. This is, of course, and we will announce it in the experimental changelog when this officially makes it to 10.6. That is to be tested. But maybe we have found a good way to handle this now. So yes, we need to see if this works.
Yeah. So testing lag shots 10.6. I mean, I definitely think the guys on my Shattered Horizon server will be able to test the crap out of that. So we should get some good feedback on that. There's a question here. Will Elion put out some of their own builds to show or direct their players in what they're looking for at design specializations? I suspect the prefabs are probably a better way of directing that question. What's going to happen to the prefabs after CPU?
Yeah, basically, I indicated this already. What we plan is to completely redo all the prefabs. Maybe not redo, but do new prefabs, because most of them are quite yeah, also from design and optics, quite outdated and not using the latest features and blocks and stuff we have added over the last 4 to 5 major versions. So the plan is as follows: that when the CPU point system is basically completed, so maybe end of experimental starting at the public release, we will then work in new prefabs for certain tiers, maybe certain ideas like transporters and so on. We're looking into this already. We have not started yet, I'd say, because as the values change already, and maybe they will change a bit more in the experimental, it's not that we can say we have these framework and then we can start. I think to avoid making work double and triple and rework then again, we will wait for the process to be seized down a bit, and then rework the current prefab. So as we stated, I think 1 million times today, as the CPU points will not be mandatory or not default on even in 10.6 public release, the prefabs will not be affected. So you still can use them freely. If you choose to play with CPU points, it might be difficult at times. Some are still still apply to the CPU rules or inside or CPU compliant with certain tier maybe. I'll go through them and slash on a few CPU extenders. But basically the big change or the new lineup of prefabs will come when most of the values are fixed, and then we will add a whole new range of prefabs. Maybe some will come back, rework. It's up to those in the in the builders league if they choose to either update them simply. Maybe some are possibly need only be updated, but some of the very old ones maybe they get the newer.
Yeah, because I suppose it makes sense to me that you'd sort of wait until you had all the sort of build influencing changes in place, really. CPU being a big one.
The same suggests, or the same maybe true for everyone who's now looking at his workshop items or workshop flows. Maybe not jump the gun when the experimental comes up. Maybe wait until the experimental is completed. Look at where we then add. Are the values? Do we say these values? We will go with these values, and maybe then things over. So currently it's not. There's no need to jump the gun or maybe get overly excited or worried about what will work then, because as I said, the 10.6 will still default off, and you have still time to adjust your builds, and I think you have more than enough time to do that. And
I think that's a good approach. I mean, I'll be building in experimental mode because I have to. I got a stream to run.
Of course, experimental it will be forced for the reasons we already talked, but it will not be forced public. I'm glad for everyone who is taking part on the experimental. Maybe those who are more into design and building more, maybe look at the forum. I'll post the threads. I said that we have a little challenge to build with certain kinds of tiers and what we can do with it to see, to have examples as we put it today, what can be done and what does not work anymore in this, or what we need to adjust, because we can take a lot from this. And it's about what you people and all the players build, and it's not like we say we have a clear vision how a destroyer should be laid out, because this is very much an opinion how this laid out. We are more interested in the fact, so what you can do with it, and if we need to adjust the values then, or if it's good or
Yep. Cool. Agreed. Very nice. Last 2 questions, I promise.
No worries. Let them come.
So somebody asked, I don't know the names, unfortunately. LCD screens, showing ship stats and stuff like that. So linking LCDs to these statistics pages.
Maybe short answer, yes, planned. Not yet done, on the list. Possibly with the next iteration of LCD.
I think there is a mod out there somewhere that actually already does that.
Yes,
to an extent.
Aztec has done quite. His mod is quite capable to do a few things, but we would like to possibly to add it as a default feature because it's quite often requested, and the guy who can do this currently is shifted to all the CPU and refactoring stuff. So yeah, it's a bit time consuming, but this is still on the list, and we also want to have this, so you can, especially for bases also where you are not seated, you get a few performance parameters and shown. And
yeah, it would be nice to have sort of volume and weight dynamically displayed on LCD attached to the box and things like that, but like so many other things, it's on the list. Final question: key bindings for the P menu. So signal logic.
Yeah, this not only for the signal logic, but also for the custom keys. We already had this on the plan. I'm not sure why this was not followed. Possibly due to priorities, as always. But yes, I think this is still planned. So signal logic is also topic itself, which might get an update and also stuff around it. So maybe yes, we can also have shortcuts which you can then use from your pilot seat. We also have talked about moving this to the pilot toolbar, so you can actually have a group or so on your pilot toolbar and activate it or manage it from there. But this is a bit more complicated because the UI is not.
There's quite a lot of sort of pilot shortcuts that would be nice.
We need to think into this and think how this can be done and how this is. But basically, the key combo shortcuts, maybe this is a bit easier to. I'm not sure when this will come, but these are all topics which are discussed once in a while.
Yeah.
At one point, they say yes. I've just done this.
December then, yeah.
We can.
As always. Okay, I'm not going to ask you any more questions. I'm just going to say thank you very much for talking to me today and talking to us all today. And Talon Tex as well for being in the chat. Big shout out to Cougarbuck as well for helping me field the questions in there from the chat. And a big thank you to you guys for sticking with me, with us for almost 4 hours now.
And for your patience with the developmental cycle, and looking forward to see you all in the experimental and contributing feedback. And well, I think we will probably do these Q&As more often if you like it, so we can add more questions to the queue and possibly come over to our Discord. Then we can have a few more answered. We have a Q&A feature in our Discord where you can ask questions and they get answered one after another. Yeah.
And remember, guys, when 10.6 does hit experimental, feedback. And don't be afraid to build stuff as well and say, this is what I built, and this is what I built, or can't build, or stuff like that. It's what we're going to need to balance the numbers properly and stuff. So, like I said, we're all employed by Elion now.
Yeah.
Congratulations. But also just to you, Hummel, and the rest of Elion, thank you for an awesome game. I think I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Empyrean is the best value for money I have ever bought, entertainment-wise. I have, I think, 3,000 hours in this game now. Not even the biggest, most expensive AAA game can come anywhere near that. So really, ultimate thanks goes to you guys for developing it and still developing it, because many closed alpha games like Empyrean have just fallen to the wayside, been abandoned and things like that, and you guys are still trucking on, so thank you very much. We really, really appreciate it, and I think it's safe to say on behalf of the community that we, despite what sometimes we might say or yell, we do love the
That's
game.
pretty much. This is often how, if it's a community which is so involved in the game development and with us and forums, so yeah, it's a debate often. So it's pretty much.
As long as you know that, then we can continue to yell at you. But yeah, watch out, guys, because big, massive release with loads and loads and loads of features coming out in December. Hummel promised it, so, you know, it's going to happen. All right, guys, I'm not going to keep you any longer. It must be very late for you as well, Christoph. Thank you very much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching. Remember, chilling and building on Sunday. I don't know what I'm going to be building, but if the experimenter was out by Sunday, or is it going to be next week, do you think?
I think we will plan early next week.
Next week. But I'll be alright to build on the closed alpha, yeah?
You can try it.
You could try it. Okay. If it's sorted.
If it's working.
Yeah, because the current version is buggered beyond all belief. Alright, cool. So yeah, chilling and building on Sunday. We'll be building something in one of the versions somewhere. To be confirmed. Hopefully I'll see you guys there. Otherwise, I'll see you during the week over on YouTube for some more Project Eden. Thank you again, everyone, for joining me, and hopefully we'll see you all again soon for another Q&A, for another live stream, for another episode. Have a wonderful weekend.
You.
Bye.
Bye.
See you.
Thanks.